Guys, today we got Dario Nardi with us, and we're going to be talking about how each type handles necrosis
Necro. Yeah.
based off type. It seems as though Dario's hitting that
Neurosis.
neurosis. My bad, neurosis.
Yeah.
Like Dario's hitting more the child functions here. So I think last time we did TI child,
Yeah.
we did FE child, and then FI child. So that if
Yep.
you're following, that's the INFJ and ISFJ, and then that is the ENTP and ESTP, and then INTJ and ISTJ. And today we'll be hinting more to the other types. So it's gonna be fun because my girlfriend's got SI child, so I got a lot to say about that.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. And, in many ways, many times, in the type community, they like to talk shit about the inferior function and then sort of inflate the third function, the child function is like some great thing. And it is like, I think it's very meaningful when introducing people to type to talk about the third function. It is a very important part of their personality. But yeah, we're going to be focusing on the main content of the neurotic zone as we did last time. And a lot of that content is the third function content.
Yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't look pretty. And even when you learn how to deal with it, there's just like new, not so pretty stuff that enters that zone.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I've read the theory behind like the child function, and I've count they I guess BB says that it's positive, and then there's literature that says that it's also negative. I agree that I think it depends on the person. I think it depends on the person from what I've seen, because I've seen some people who love their child function, and there's some people who lock their child function away.
mhm.
And those type of people generally have a harder time realizing their type because they've kind of like pushed their child function so away. Unless the pushed away child function is the stereotype.
Yeah.
Unless it's the stereotype, like say for INTJ,
Yeah, INTJs for sure. Yeah.
or the stereotype is that they like push their FI child away. So like if people ever see an INTJ who's all or INTJ woman who's all about FI child, then they'll most likely type them ISFP.
Yeah.
But that's just something I've seen, where it's like you never know, like is the child negative or is it positive. I think BB says it's positive or optimistic, but you talk to the INTJ male and he's not the biggest on talking about FI.
No, no. Although for men, introverted feeling is an acceptable way to have feeling. Is just you're not supposed to ever show that. So that's I appreciate what BB has done, but in working with archetypes, I feel like gone back to Jung and expanded my viewpoint on it. And Linda Behrens does talk about the negative side of each archetype, that the hero can also be tremendously overbearing. There's like issues with all of them. So I just want to emphasize to folks that what we're really talking about is the neurotic zone, which is that space between the ego and the unconscious. And it just happens that for us, for most of us, a lot of that content is third function content. And hopefully the person learns how to process that in a good way. But like talking about INTJs, as we did last time, they can be moralistic and self-righteous and like black and white responses to stuff. The emotions tend to be brittle. They like somebody, they don't even know why. Then that person does something and they hate them. And again, they're like, that's not rational, but that's how I feel. But they're not going to say that to anybody unless they're more mature. So it really is. It's like a journey for every type, I think, to keep rediscovering their third function. I'd love to start off with talking about introverted intuiting as the child function when that's the majority of the neurotic zone. Because those types can definitely, ISFP and ISTP can uh, go for a Mr. Toad's wild ride with that function. And sometimes it works amazingly well. And then other times it's like, damn, just remembering it's like a 10-year-old. Yeah.
So
So
which one you said?
it's just
Introverted intuition, introverted
yeah,
intuition.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because we're sort of flipping from where we were last time. So introverted intuition, what does that look like when that's the majority of the content there? And that's, in its basic use, is just like having that aha insight or realization, being inspired for the arts, having a vision of the future, having drive. ISFP is not known for having drive, except when they do, which is every so often. Um, but yeah, let's talk about some of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
What
for
I've noticed about NI Child, my
yeah,
buddy Christian, he's an ISTP. He's been on a lot of times. Is I've noticed with his focus, it wanes. It's like one day he's super focused, the next day he's fucking not. You know, he's like he's all over the place when it comes to being focused. And for somebody like myself, my focus never wanes. So it's like if we're like competing or something, I just gotta wait till his inner child just cuts off, you know.
mm,
So then I'll beat him in like a lot of like activities, but it's because of his inner child. He's like he's focused and then he's not focused, and then he's focused and he does and then he's not focused, or like he'll have like this idea of like he'll be thinking about one thing, but he will never foresee anything else that could go wrong. Like
oh
he's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolute like I remember one time I was helping him move, and like I was helping him move, and he was like putting it was the first time he ever used like I forget the thing when you hook your car up to it, and then you drive the U-Haul. He had never
The
used that
hitch.
before. I don't remember the name of it, but he had never used it before, and I was like, bro, you didn't think about everything that could go wrong. He's like, no, bro, there's nothing could go wrong. You know, it's like in our child, it's like nothing could go wrong. Only what I see, and I'm like, bro, there's like a ton of shit around here that's gonna go wrong because you didn't see it, and it's like what I see with in our child, like they see exactly like what they see and nothing else around it. So I think they can land in trouble a lot of times because they don't see like X, Y, B, Z, all this stuff that's laying around. They just see that forward path.
Yeah.
Well, I think like INTJs will take the time to look at a couple different alternatives, be a
Mm.
little bit more sketched out about it. While like the for them, they don't have that any to kind of balance them out.
Well, and that's a big factor in talking about this. Like, what is the big challenge with the third function? And oftentimes it's because the seventh is just not there to help balance it out.
Yeah.
And for somebody who prefers, say, like NI, ENFJ, INTJ, whatever, even though we don't really do any, we understand when other people are doing it. And we're like, oh, you're doing a brainstorming session. Okay, I can like ride along with that. Like I don't always appreciate ENFP going like on and on and on, but I get it. And then it's just really scary when you have, and sort of funny sometimes when you have introverted intuiting and there's no any to balance it out. Like that any is totally a shadow function, so it's all just projection and not noticing the projection. And yeah, it's a weird is a weird little journey there. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm seeing if I can display to folks what is on my screen so that when we're talking, they can see.
I thought we had it last time.
Yeah, last time we were able to do something like you'd be able
Yeah.
to put your slides up.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you
Now
did.
they are hot. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure how
There
you
you
did it,
go,
but
Dario.
Sorry, I've been in
I was
because
like, I asked him beforehand, where is he gonna do that? And I was like, well, if he ain't, well, it is what it is.
yeah, yeah. No, no, no. So here it is. And and I asked everyone to forgive me. I just came back from Norway where I was like pressed to speak Norwegian, and I'm really jet lagged. So jeg er så veldig trøtt, ass. It's I'll try to remember not to do that. Yeah. So just so everyone can see, like it says, and all of them say basic use, advanced use, and then like the neurotic use and what that looks like. And since we're talking about ISTP, and because my stepdad and my brother both ISTPs, one of the funniest things is the negative projections into the future, like disaster theorizing. And I remember for like 15 years, my stepdad, again, ISTP, was convinced. I mean, his mother was old, and he's just like, yeah, she's going to die this year. And it doesn't happen. And the next year, yeah, she's going to die this year. And he was so convinced of it. And my sister and I would just roll our eyes as like 10 years go by. And I'm like, Dad, have you noticed like your projections are like not accurate? Um, but for him, it was very real. Like this negative theorizing, or like ISFP gets into the same thing. They notice some kind of body language, like hint. I remember this one guy, he was just convinced that his good female friend, her husband, was like bulimic. And it was just like he would just go on and on about it with me, and I'm like, dude, there's like you had this insight, but I do not think this is real. And at the very least, like you need to check it out. So it's like that weird sort of like negative theorizing that's there. And I don't mean conspiracy theories like some big thing, because it's coming off of their like their natural preferences. So they notice these little details, and then they start piecing the details together, and then really quickly have this insight, and they're like, yeah, it's this. And I'm like, I don't think so. Um, and so it's that's like a big part of it, I think, is that negative theorizing. And because they don't have that extroverted intuiting there as like a backup or balance, and they're not going to understand it when other people do it, that a big piece of extroverted intuiting is ability to see patterns in the outer world, like invisible patterns, dynamics. And an ENFP could easily be sitting there and being like, yeah, I just see what's going on between these two people. And they're usually right. And ENTP is like, yeah, I see my opponent's strategy. And even if the opponent made it sort of complicated and trying to hide it, the ENTP, like, you can't fucking hide a strategy from, excuse me, from an
Yeah,
ENTP.
good, Dario.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like the poor ISTP and ISFP, they're just like just using introverted intuition to try and see these patterns in the outer world. And what they end up doing, and we all psychologically project. The question is like, can we admit it when it's pointed out? Like, do we then we'll be like, oh yeah, you're right, I am doing that. And I have found, and I know lots and lots of ISFPs over my life. Like I dated an ISFP for 3.5 years. Nope, nope, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, I think
It,
yeah, with the ice, I think you'll see the because when I think about Christian, my buddy, he never really uses introverted intuition much. You'll rarely catch him in it. Um, because he's always using TISE, right? So he doesn't want to hear anything about much abstract stuff. But what I do notice is with like ISFP women, they tend to loop FINI.
yeah,
So they
yeah,
jump to conclusions very quickly about what people are saying about them, what people are doing about them, or like anything like that. They will just jump and try to use their intuition, and I'm just like, I look at them and I'm like, your intuition's ass. Like you don't have enough data here. You don't have enough data here, but they're like consistently think, oh, this girl's doing something to get on my nerve, or like that type of thing. You'll see them consistently try to forecast something like that, and I'm like, this is so wrong. Or like you don't have enough information on it to even consider this as a possibility, or like could it be anything else? And it's like there's like I said, they're tunneled in on that one thing. Like they cannot see like if you can see 360, they can't see the 360. They can only see that one little short thing, and I'm like, yo, and they
yeah.
believe it's 100% true.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. It's like a dog with a bone that they do not want to leave behind, and it is sort of funny, and yeah, it's just very convincing when it happens. I think a part of that too is at the times. So for ISTP, they like creativity, but creativity is always in service to whatever their problem solving is. And for ISFP, it's usually incorporated into like their weird artistic inspiration or their personal style or something like that. And I think those are two like positive examples of it, like why ISFP can be so much more creative in like an out of the box way than say ESFP can. But when it gets into the negative stuff, and I get it because my introverted intuition can at times become very tunnel vision. And I'm just like, but I know that about myself. Like this is my dominant function. Like I know I do that. Um, and for them, it's like one of those things like it happens 10 times and they're still like, no, like, things do not work out. And they're like, no, it still must be the case. And I'm like, mm, It's like I'm just going to nod to humor you at this point.
Yeah,
And I do think that it can be used in a very spiritual way too, and that can also be very helpful. But then also, if you've noticed, like, who are the actually weird people in society? Especially because I think there are a lot of them. That a lot of ISFPs and ISTPs compared to say INTJ or INFJ. Just like numerically, there's a lot more of them, and you like dig in their spirituality, and you're like, yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff there, like weird NI stuff, but it's like 10-year-old weird NI stuff. And that's, I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to entertain astrology. Like, I don't really take it seriously, but I'm like, I don't really believe in astrology, but this is like, if it's real, like this is a really bad retrograde Mercury, like whatever it is.
yeah.
But
When
they're
it comes
like,
to
oh,
astrology, Dario, what I've noticed is like if you're dealing with the ISFP and they're like, they have the little in our child and they like astrology, but they don't know shit about astrology outside of like the general shit. Like when it comes to like drafting everything else and then talking about the 13 or whatever the different houses that they have. I'm not an expert on astrology, but there's several different houses. They know absolutely nothing behind that. They know like the basic shit, like you're a Gemini. They don't know like you got to have time of birth and all that stuff, and then put all of the houses together and how
Yeah.
this changes that. They don't know none of that shit. So that's how you know like you're dealing with ISFP, because they keep it very simple.
yeah,
So
yeah. And by the way, the people joining, just so you know, this whole series is dissing people, and including our own types, which we did last time. So that's what, and I think it's really important. I love that type is about different gifts and the way people can shine, and it isn't like five factor, and that there's a whole bunch of stuff that's not desirable. But I think also seeing the negative is really important to understanding the type and where people go wrong. And it's okay to talk about it. Just don't make it the centerpiece of it. Yeah.
And I think it's important to learn about like the functions, especially like the child functions, because you'll see them play out, man. It's kind of funny, man. It's kind of funny because it with John Beebe, I think he's right on the archetypes, because you will see like when a person takes on like a certain role, their energy will change, right? And then
Yeah.
you'll see like if someone's like being in the childish mode or being like a child, you'll see it just play out, and they're in the child function. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
You see
No,
like
I
breaking
do
down.
believe so. And oftentimes, one of the things that shows up is that there are moments for all of us, whatever our child function is, where we're just incredibly confident about it. Like there is no other reality than that. And it's just like INTJs, and when there is this moment of like moral rebuke in someone's behavior, especially if they're a hypocrite or something, it's like, you do not want to actually ask me to open my mouth and tell you what I think. And I learned that early on. My mom was an ENFJ, and she's a lot of times like, there are things you just don't say to people, even if you think them. And you're not wrong, but there's, don't say it. I know, and it's funny here. Somebody says NT dissing people, perish the thought. Uh, yeah, yeah, no, and I
Yeah.
get it. Like there are moments when I can like play act being an NF, because I do got that introverted feeling, but it only lasts so long, and it only goes so far, and and it's the same with every one of them. I think a really hard thing when NI is third, that child function, is that there's also extremes, and so being really confident is one of them, but also being like, I'm horrible at that, and I'm a moron, and there's no way I can do this. I have seen this like with my stepdad. There were times he's like, his friends when he was younger, they had a name for him, which I'm not going to repeat, but basically he was a dumbass. And at other times, he genuinely thought he would have some idea, and this was like the smartest idea ever. And so it happens. It's like, and I've seen it with ISFP. They have this vision of what they could do. I'm going to make a film. Like, I got my camera. It's going to be amazing. And they go through this 24 hours where they're just like so animated with NI, or maybe even 10 minutes, like whatever it is. And then because it's third, they give up
Cut
on
off.
it.
Cut off.
You can still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. I said no. I was saying like it cuts off. Like the
Yeah, it
child
cuts
function cuts
off.
off.
And then all of a sudden, like all of that energy is lost. They give up on their vision. For them, it's the introverted intuiting that gives anybody the perspective of their own mind and their own psychology. Like to step back from yourself and take a perspective and then have a perspective on that with like another stepping back. And it will just be like there and it's there and then nothing. And they can really beat themselves up as like times where they feel like geniuses and then they feel like idiots.
Yeah, it's definitely that. It's like what I was saying about my buddy. He's hot and cold. He's hot and cold. Like he'll be focused, getting things done, and then like I'll look because we kind of track progress between each other because he has his YouTube channel and I go to YouTube channel. Boy, you ain't did nothing in 2 weeks. You know, like I'll be like, you ain't did nothing in 2 weeks, and he's like, man, you know, and then he'll go in a spurt where he's like all over it for like a month, and then it's like. And then he's taking time off. You know, it's just like he cannot stay focused. Like he cannot. It's just like it's just not. It's just not there. The NI focus is just not there. It's there and it's gone. There and it's gone. There and it's gone. And I like he knows that like that's something I'm gonna pick at him for. So he tries to like not do it. But I'm like I'm like I call him Trunks because it's like this anime character that we used to watch when we were kids,
Mm.
and he would like have these unbelievable spurts, but end up losing because he couldn't like keep it up. So I just call him that. I'm like, all right, Trunks, you know, and he gets so mad
Mhm.
about it. It's kind of funny, but it's like picking on NI child.
Yeah, it was not a I mean, I look back on it and I wasn't wrong, but I was 6 years old, and I remember having a conversation with my stepdad, and this is a person who's an adult, and I am literally 6 years old, and I'm aware that I'm only 6 years old, and yet I'm sitting there and I'm listening like, oh no, he's stupid.
And then
Like,
yeah, critic.
yeah, no, and that there was that moment too, but I'm just like this NI does not work. Like, and I didn't have a language for it then, but I already had like some like at least one like really big experience. And that's and it's the same, an INFP can be sitting with an INTJ, and then INTJ seems to be riding along with their emotions and stuff until all of a sudden it cuts out, and then we're just like, yeah, we're done. I have no more empathy or like desire to listen. Like, and I probably missed some important like emotional thing that they were attempting to say very indirectly. I get this so often from ISFPs. I look back and I'm thinking like, yeah, they were saying something important and I just wasn't listening. Not for real. So it's the same, like with every type. It's how we can experience it when someone else is doing it. We're gonna be like all in, black or white, and then we're gonna miss like the subtleness of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's the child function is funny because it just doesn't have any like checks and balances. Like the other functions have checks and balances. It just has none. So it's just like it's all or nothing. It's on or off. It's spotty. It's it's just interesting. But it's kind of funny to see people sit in the moods like a kid when they're in it. Like I'll be able to explain when we go to SI about like my coworker and like my girlfriend, but it's kind of funny because I like they're going through it and I'm like looking at them and they're acting like a fucking kid and I'm just like laughing and I'm just like, what's so funny? And I'm just like, yeah, you don't know, you know.
No, I do think that there is something that one can learn from somebody who has something in the third position. And I'll give an example. So I went to do rock climbing, and this was my third time maybe, and it was outdoors at a beach, and it's like 100 feet high. And there's like the ropes and stuff like that. And I like, unlike in the gym, I started to freak out after about 10 feet. And there was ISFP and ISTP with me. And the ISTP, who had been rock climbing outdoors before, I'm like, do you have advice? And she's like, yes. And you know what? She gave me really good advice. And it was a mix of TI and NI together, and it worked. So there's sometimes, but then you know what? It's something that she actually had data for. And I think that, they can operate together. And that's always the question, like, is there, as you said, like, is there enough data points? Please don't be two data points for all of you ISFPs and ISTPs listening. Like, you need to have more than two. Um, but it can be very informative sometimes, and that's all good. I have seen an ISFP, and we were at a psychedelic retreat. Most of the people are on the ground, like they can't do anything, which is the whole point. Like they're in their interior space. ISFP, this is like his second time ever. And he's up there, and already the facilitator, the shaman, is like, oh, could you tend to the fire? Because you need to have like really good self control. Like he had the whole psychedelic experience and he was doing all the physical stuff at the same time. I'm like, that is impressive. Like that was like very nice to see. So sometimes it can really shine and be amazing, but just keep in mind, for all of you, like it has limits. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the inner child is also like usually when you get into like the abstract functions, they're a little bit harder, especially the perceiving functions to like nail down a lot of times. But I do think that, like, generally speaking, that's what you'll see with the ISTP and ISFP.
Thomas, do you have anything to you have something to add?
I mean, not a whole lot. I mean, I think oftentimes with the child function, I think you guys have kind of touched on this, but I think often it's kind of like it's overconfident. Like whereas the inferior function is something that you're not good at and like you lack confidence with. I think one of the problems with the child function is that you think that you're better at it than you actually are. And I think that's one of the things that can kind of lead to problems. But just also going back to what we were saying before, kind of about like how any trickster comes into play. My mother's second husband was an ISFP, and like he didn't have the capability. Like we were talking about chess, he didn't have the capability to talk about like one or two or three steps in the future. He's like my mind just doesn't even do that, which I don't think's kind of. It's just to me it's like completely opposite because like I'm not great at chess, but I've played chess. I'm halfway decent at it. I'm better than most people, but I'm an INTJ, so it's it is what it is. But it's just yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how how that plays out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. To seeing the next steps, yeah.
They just like I don't know if that's all NI childs, but like they just it's like
Is it
what like
ISFP?
next step. What do you mean? Like what do you mean the next step? I could just only see what's in front of me. It's like their mind doesn't even that you can't play out different scenarios. But I mean, if they don't have the NE or the NI, then I guess you can't.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Forecasting it. Was it ISFP though? T was ISFP?
Yeah, her second husband, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I
ISFP,
was
yeah.
because ISTP I think a little bit better, but
I think so. Yeah, it's
yeah,
just yeah, I think they're a little bit better.
yeah, a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
I
they
think
understand the process, whereas ISFPs don't.
Yeah, yeah. That's what
yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, and I think ISTPs love to be competitive, especially with themselves. So if they decide, yeah, I want to get good at chess, like the energy will go there, and their introverted thinking is then going to really master that.
That's true. And yeah, also yeah, the TI helps as well. I mean,
Yeah.
ISFPs they're kind of up shit's creek because they have their intuition functions are low, their thinking functions are low. So it's yeah,
Oh,
it's
Are you switching some?
I am. I'm going to switch to. I'm just getting people ready for the next thing, so I remember like where we are with this.
Someone said, I wonder if some of the best chess players are actually ICJ since many of them succeed just by
no,
memorization.
no.
Now, most of your chess players are going to be INTJ. You need to be
Yeah,
able to foresee.
predominantly
I think
INTJ.
there's even a published study on that, like on chess players and type, and
Yeah,
yeah, and it's in that great like the Queen's Gambit. I think she's a really good example of an INTJ.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 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 and like an honest one, like multiple dimensions, not just a villain or
Hmm.
like in Marvel with Doctor Strange. It's like yeah, he's a little bit of a like not a great guy at the very beginning in his origin story, but then he's like pretty amazing after that. I think Queen's Gambit is a really nice example of INTJ.
Yeah.
Um, and for ISFPs, gosh, there's a lot of stories. I mean, I think they're featured in a lot of movies, and usually they're the like, happy-go-lucky fun surfer that does something stupid that gets them into trouble. Like that's I think like a common trope. But what is it? It's like Into the Wild, something. I think that's the name of the movie. That ISFP who just like went alone in Alaska to live in the wild, and eventually, like unfortunately, he died because of the lack of planning. Um, it's like winter is pretty harsh up there. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty harsh.
Yeah.
pretty
When
harsh.
you
Yeah, yeah, pretty
if
harsh.
if you
Yeah,
guys actually get into chess, Obviously, I don't think you know much about chess here because it's a lot of theory. It's a lot of theory. It's a lot of like
Playing out different scenarios and
playing out
memorization. Yeah.
thousands of scenarios, figuring out the best path forward, which is usually going to be NI, and a lot of pattern recognition. A lot of pattern recognition. A
Which
lot of
is
times when
intuition.
you're seeing like chess pieces move on the board, they're seeing patterns. The extremely good ones, they're seeing patterns. All right, this pattern, this pattern, this formation, this formation. So they're just seeing patterns play out. It's usually your best chess player is the INTJ.
Yeah. No,
Well,
I can say that the if we sort of say there are more analytical ISFPs in like a brain sense and more holistic ISFPs, the holistic ones are going to be like in the arts, and the analytic ones I know too who actually are quite good at computer programming. They don't really enjoy it. It's not like their favorite thing, but they really can get into it, and I feel that reflects another side of the child function. Is like let's just focus on this, and maybe even some of their extroverted thinking comes in there, and they can be pretty good at it, but still I mean we see generally, it's the same. It's like an INTJ who becomes a musician. Like they can do it, they're INTJ musicians, but do they have like the heart-wrenching pathos that an ISFP is going to have when performing, or just like the weirdness of an ISFP? Like David Bowie's a great example. There, by the way, there's a gal in the type community who's done a lot of research on David Bowie and type. I think he's a great example of ISFP, and yeah, he's very talented and very weird.
I
Yeah,
think with a lot of musicians, INTJ, you actually see a lot of INTJ musicians because they create that path for themselves and they never give up on that path. So
yeah,
they could be the worst musician ever, but because they put all of their stock behind something, they end up actually getting there. As opposed to like a lot of people, like let's say like the SPs, they'll quit. They'll quit because they don't have like the vision for it, right? And you'll see a lot of musicians that are INTJs, they have the vision for them. When they were 5 years old, they're like, all right, this is something I want to do. I knew this is something I want to do for the rest of my life. So then I put everything behind musician, whatever.
well, I think it's more so performers, not so. I mean, at least from what I've seen, not so much like people like INTJs playing instruments. You see it sometimes, but I think it's really challenging. I think for an INTJ to learn an instrument, like to become like highly skilled at it. Um, just
yeah, and yet I agree that perseverance absolutely
oh,
could be
for
there.
sure, yeah,
Yeah. What kills me is when I see an SP type, any of them, but let's say we're talking about ISFP, has a lot of natural physical talent.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like they
uh huh,
can learn that guitar like inside and out in like weeks to months. What took me, whereas like learning to play guitar took me 3 years, and even
yeah,
now I consider myself like definitely mediocre, like definitely mediocre. And I mean, I can, play it to support the singing and all of that, but ISFP, I'm like, damn, dude, you got like so much talent, and then they give up, they get
yeah,
distracted.
yeah.
Like
They
I
give
said,
up. Yep.
the same shit as I always say. It's the same shit. They have no like vision.
If they had the NI, they would stick with it. But yeah,
Like
Yeah,
you, I end up beating a lot of people at a lot of things because they don't have vision. Like I don't think for me as a person, I don't think I'm too talented, but my
no,
brain
no.
always thinks strategically and it never stops. So like you can haul your ass off. I'm gonna walk you down because you're gonna
It's
fucking quit
like
or
the
like
tortoise and
you're
the
just like
hare.
like it's just like it's kind of funny. It's like it's crazy. Like, it's just like people just
yeah.
lack
I
focus.
have a ISFP friend, and he had this idea in his head. He wanted to learn the flute, and he researched flutes, and he got a flute. And you know what? The flute is actually way more difficult to play than the guitar. And the same with the drums. I'm like, I mean, the drums are a hand drum is not difficult, but I'm like, dude, just stick with it. And he gave up, and he put his expensive flute away. I'm just thinking like I would not have given up. Like I know it takes time, and it's like, and I'm thinking like he has natural talent, but is that unfortunately the laziness of the ISFP, and then they have these spurts that are like super workaholic, but that inherent like, yeah, I just want everything to sort of flow, and be easy and peaceful. It's like FINI together. Like, I'm just going to wait around in life until the magic moment comes to me. And I'm like, life is going to, like, you may have to wait till
Make
you're
it die.
65, dude, or like the moment of death for it to happen. Like, yeah. And some of that is TE also, just like, the perseverance to go out there and do something.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do find ISTP has longer follow through.
Mm-hmm.
Where the NI comes in is ultimately they trust a lot more. They're just like firsthand experience and their TI.
I think the
And
TI
their
is it.
TI is just like, this is the model I'm using. And they stick with that model for like literally, I mean, my stepdad, like he stuck with his model for like all of his adult life. And he would have an insight for something and he'd try it out. And then I'm standing there thinking like, oh, if you just refine it a little bit or like try it in a slightly different way, it'll probably deliver what your intuition said. No, he just like gives up and goes back to his model. Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know, do I have to do your career for you? Like you can do it. You can.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Like what you were saying there, I think it's the TI versus the FI
Yeah.
yeah.
because the ISTP understands logically how long something should take, while ISTP has no logic behind anything. Because it's like TI in the eighth spot and then TE in the fourth spot, so they have no logic. So they're just basically going off, does this thing give me a good feeling or not? Is it resonating with me? And as soon as it's not resonating with me, they're gonna put it away.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So shall we talk about the next set of victims? I mean types.
Yeah, let's go for TE.
Yeah,
TE child.
yeah. And
That should be interesting.
oh
Yep.
yeah, so we'll be talking about ENFP. Yay,
Yeah.
ENFP.
Yeah.
And ESFP. ESFP is gonna actually. I met an ESFP while I was in Oslo, just like a friend of a friend. And like, damn, we had the best NI conversation. But
Really?
that's fourth function, and we're talking about third function here. So let's find this window, and here we go. Timely building, as I like to call it, is just extroverted thinking. Of course, so I think an important thing to remember is that there are some functions that are very encouraged by society, like schooling,
Hmm.
for example.
Yep.
Yeah. So
That's right.
ESFP and ENFP are basically given an ultimatum from like age 5 onwards that they're like, you need to learn TE. And I remember the year that my sister at age 15, she's an ENFP, transition from like no TE to like, oh yeah, like I'm going to manage my own schedule and I'm going to get my homework done. And all of these things, it was just like a sea change in a few months. And of course, like high school demands it. Like there's no choice. But I also know ENFP, I have a lot of experience with the type. They're in their 40s and still like everything is so disorganized in life. Like you can ask them like, okay, at this moment, and if they're motivated, they'll be like, yeah, I'll look at this timetable or this like flow chart or whatever. They understand their extroverted intuiting is great usually. I mean, it can give the illusion of IQ that maybe isn't there, but generally speaking, great. And ESFPs is like super adaptable. They just look to see what everybody else is doing. And as long as they can do like some hands-on trial and error, they're just like, yeah, I can figure this out. But like the follow through is just and like dotting all of those I's and crossing those T's. And like I mean I know a male ENFP who's in his early 40s. Dude cannot even wash his own linens. Like what is up with that? Um it is just so funny how it's very selective. But yeah, the first thing I'll focus on is the tendency to either under or over manage. And it's really funny because the type can be, they look like they have no TE, and then you put them in a social situation they actually care about. So it's social, it involves people, like they're doing something, it's extroverted, it pairs up with their dominant function. And then all of a sudden, the TE comes out and is like, oh, yeah, I can manage all of these people. And they do up to a point. So my advice for these types is like do the management stuff, but make sure it has like endpoints, like only for 3 days. like whatever it is, and then know like your 10-year-old, your child function cannot continue as like a life path. Like you if you want to be managing, do not sign you up for managing logistics for your job, because you're going to do like a super impressive job for like 3 days, and then you're going to burn out and be like, no, I can't keep. I mean, I know an ENFP in his 40s, a different one. It just like absolutely after 3 months of doing management with a lot of details, he's like, he literally said, this is the worst my life has ever been. Like for over a decade, he's like, I just can't continue with this job. And
Can,
for us, it would be like, yeah, some details. Like, it's not great. I don't love it, but I can do it. I'm going to find an efficient way to do it. So it can feel very frustrating for them when there's like just too many technical or logistical details and paperwork. You know, ESFP and ENFP despise paperwork. Like that IRS paperwork, God help them.
yeah. So what I've noticed with the ESFP and ENFP, and I treat them differently because it's very important because they have different hero functions, and the hero
Yes.
function does flavor the functions quite a bit. And I think like people misinterpret a lot of things because they look at the T child on the ENFP and they automatically attribute it to the ESFP, and it's not the same. I've like talked about it in the past. There's always one type that has a harder time with the function than the other one. It's just
Yeah.
how it is. Um, and because extroverted intuition is so curious about everything, paired with the T child, ENFPs can suck down a lot of information.
Yeah.
And what I call them is the walking shallow library of Alexandria. And what does that mean is that like if you go two steps into their information, they don't know what the fuck it means anymore. Right? So like let's say they'll be talking about something and then you start digging deep into that subject. Okay, like why does that make sense? Or what's going on here? Like da da da, boom, they're out of there.
Well,
Right? Like it's gone. You know, because the TI trickster,
yeah.
they do not understand the underlying principles
Yeah.
about the things at all. So like if you start pushing into data, you'll notice it just like poof, like there's nothing there. Like oh shit, like you really don't understand what you're doing. There's been a time my buddy's an ENFP, and I gave him a book to read, and he's in fucking law school. So I thought, oh man, there's nothing gonna be too hard here, and it was a Robert Greene book. I gave the boy the book, and I knew he read it, and I asked him, hey man, what was your summary of the book? And he gave me shit that wasn't even in the book, and I'm looking at myself like, am I stupid? Am I fucking stupid? Like, do I need to go read the book again? I went in and read the book, and I'm like, yo, what the? That's when I've developed this called the Mercer Law, and it's like first step, not everybody can read, right? Those who read can't understand, and that's what he failed at. You know, he couldn't understand what he read. He can't use it. Like as in like somebody with high TETI, they can use what they read or understand it. They can understand what they like read, right? He gave me some shit that I had never seen that wasn't even in the book, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like this was before it was type, you know. It was before I was in the type, and I was just like punching myself, like what the fuck? How did he get this shit? You know, I was just like scratching my head, like, you know. Sometimes when somebody goes so far left, I'm like, maybe I'm retarded. You know, let me pull out the fucking book myself, and pull out the book. I'm like, no, I'm not tripping. Like what's wrong with this guy? You know. But that
It
is
kind of
what
sounds like confabulation almost. Like he took a few data points and like used the any to like create his own story. It's kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's probably so. But I was blown away with it. But I think a lot of ENFPs can trick you for being very
Oh,
intelligent
oh
because they
yeah, yeah, for
dump
sure. They
down
put on a
so
front.
much information. And if, like I said, if you don't actually understand the information, they can blow right past you. They could be like, oh, you know, they could give you so much information that just blow right past you. And like you have to like be able to like to have some type of understanding of the information that they're trying to push past you to stop them because they're starter types, so they're on to the next thing and then the next thing and the next thing, and so you just let them go with it. You know, before you know it, you just let them walk right past you with the information, and the
Yeah.
shit's flat out fucking wrong.
I want to say Jonathan Campbell here, just to give a shout out for his observation, is absolutely the case. And I think it's for both types. He says some of the most politically active people I've come across are the EFPs, and they absolutely can quickly gather some information, pull it together, say something like the TE can do that. And then
Hmm.
you dig down, and because you need like TI to like actually fill out the body of TE to make it be something, um, that they're not going to take that extra step down. And then, as he says, I think it's very true. Why are they there? They're there for the drama, like the fun of the protests, the after parties, like the networking, the schmoozing, like some romance, like whatever it is that's going to come in there. And I think when we talk about anytime the third function, we want to talk about the seventh function too, and where the person has blindness, and it does show up equally for both of them. With ESFP, it's so interesting that oftentimes because the TI is not there, that you start talking and there's a certain point in level of abstraction where you just lose most of them, unless they're a really smart version of their type. Sometimes you get like really high IQ version of ESFP and then they can go along for the ride for like longer. But oftentimes there's just like, they're like, was that a metaphor? Like, are you speaking abstractly? Then they try and connect it to something really concrete. Even if it's a TE thing, they're like trying to be concrete about it. But I do say ESFP can stick with details, like being like a personal assistant, for example, and every day repeating like the same stuff, calling places, like interacting with people, like arranging for events to happen. Events organizer, like ESFP can do that. ENFP will be like, yeah, I can entertain all these abstract ideas, but then the TI is there when I mean how it does not show up is like, I'm like, all these stuff that you've mentioned, like they're just fundamental principles underneath which you seem completely unaware of. And like what you said sounds good on the surface, but like those do not fit with any like basic principles or even each other. And that's and I love, but by the way, Avery has this comment here that it can be this confusion tactic, and especially ENFP, like, I don't know what to do in this situation, let me just cause chaos. Or as one of my ENFP friends says, Luftgeschäft, in German, like let's just create like chaos in the air and like distract people. And that's and I agree, like of course the third function is going to show up a little bit differently in each type. um
Yeah.
and that's that that's funny because I spent a long time trying to figure out how do they not do TI, like how does it really show up as a weakness, because their NE is so good at masking it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Those
it's
ones, they're tricky. ENFPs will trick you. ESFP, you know off rip. Because
yeah.
SE only picks up things that are practical. So they went through a lot of life just ignoring a lot of information. So
Mhm.
it's very easy to see that they have TI trickster. But the ENFP is, they have so many things they've tried and so many different things. What about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? So they can actually cover it pretty well. But like I said, like they can't transfer things as well. Like if we say, okay, we learn something, we learn one principle from math, you could take that same principle and use it in something else. They can't do that. Like they can't do that. Like they're like, you can't do that. Like that's only for math. And it's like, no, 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 no. It can apply here as well. They're like, no, 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 no. You can't do that. So that's what I've seen with them. ESFP is just walking TI tricks. Like they're constant contradiction, constantly. Like it's just like ridiculous. Like, yo, you know, you just contradicted what you just said. Do you know you just contradicted what you said? Do you know, like there? But the ENFP just has so much information. They can cover that blind spot a lot better. But there's all like I said, there's always a type that does a lot better with the function than the other type.
Yeah, I found that, so my as a parallel, my dad is ISTJ and I'm INTJ, so we both have FI as the child function. INTJs are much better at naming what emotional state they're in. Like if somebody stop and ask me to like discuss my emotions and give names to them, like I can do that. Like I could do that when I was 15. I don't necessarily want to do that conversation, but I can do it. poor ISTJ is just like, you ask them like, how do you feel right now? And they don't know. They don't know. Like there isn't, I mean, they feel it. Their introverted sensing lets them feel it, but they don't have words for it. And so it definitely comes off as feeling is worse. But then ISTJ has this like stick to itiveness and loyalty feature of FI with introverted sensing, which is just amazing. Like I do not have the level of loyalty and endurance that an ISTJ has. Like I cannot be like, I pledge allegiance to the flag or whatever it is, like for 80 years.
I think
Like
it's
that is just not possible. And yet their FI can be like, yeah, I believe. And it
I
has
think
to be like something horrible that happens that like takes them in a different direction. It's yeah, I definitely think with the sensing types, like it often comes off because they have a harder time maybe verbalizing it in an abstract way of naming what it is that they're doing. Whereas intuiting types can like cover their stuff by just like, yeah, I'm just going to go to another level of abstraction and like sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think for the ISTJ versus the INTJ, the INTJ struggles way more with FE Trickster, and the reason why is because they're
Yes.
pragmatic. They're pragmatic, so they just don't give a fuck. So like that FE Trickster will be on display because they just don't give a fuck. While like the ISTJ is more affiliative, so
Yeah.
that they kind of know the customs and they know all that stuff, and they try to like be little good boys and stuff. While the INTJ don't give a fuck. So you'll see the FE tricks are way more on display.
I
Like,
love that you mentioned that. That is a reminder to everybody who is interested in type that there's like the whole type descriptions, and all of us are aware once we start learning type beyond the preferences and the functions that there's just like unique features of each type, and then of course there's the functions. But temperament, the four temperaments add so much value, and the temperament dynamics to understand exactly as you said that INTJ is a pragmatic type and that ISTJ is an affiliative type, and ISTJ and ESTJ, like they're aware of the FE stuff in terms of like group norms and whatever. Like they're aware since childhood. And that's exactly why ISTJ can be the good boy or good girl, and although female ISTJ is often less so. And INTJ absolutely is just like either they don't notice. Like I know an INTJ who's 25 years younger than me, and I'm like, you realize that you've insulted me like 3 times in the past 5 minutes, and I get like I still feel you have like really good intentions, so I'm giving you a pass. But no, and I know like an
it's TI
SFP,
critic. It's
yeah,
TI
who
critic.
told me he's like, yeah, you insult me sometimes, but I can see you mean it from a good place, so I'm not like holding it against you. And that's but yeah, INTJs are often unaware of these things, or if we're aware, I remember when I was still like a practicing Catholic when I was like undergrad, and I was in church, and of course I'm there for only my own reasons, not to be like part of the community or something. And this ESFJ woman, this is right after I learned type, she comes over to me and she's trying to use all of this like FE stuff to like guide me to do things, to get more involved in this and that. And I'm standing there and I'm like,
No.
I see what you're doing and no. And then I like turned it down 3 times, and finally she literally like had a gasp of exasperation. And I'm just like, I don't know what to say. Like, I'm not going to be forced into something. That's not me. Like, I'm just here for my own reasons, like my own NIFI reasons for things. And that's just the way it is. It is very funny. Yeah. Whereas ISTJ, that FI is comes off as less selfish.
More and
And
more.
yeah,
They can be more moralistic too, but it was whatever. Yeah,
yeah,
but
no, it's true.
the TE child, like I said, for these guys is a little bit different because the ESFP will go through life just missing out on a lot of information because everything needs to work for SE, right?
Hmm.
And so they'll go out just missing so much information, and that information will compound over time, right? That's what people don't really realize. It's like it's not like people are much smarter than another person. It's like you went through your entire life playing around with information. So like now you're 30 years old, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about now, because it's compounding over time now, So you're dumbass because you decided to be a dumbass from fifth grade up to fucking college. So that is what you will see the difference between those two be. Because the ESFP wants to make sure they can use that information like now or soon, while the ENFP just exploring possibilities. So they'll just suck down information like nobody else's business, and they can cover that TI blind spot quite well until you like push into the information. They can seem like a know-it-all too until you push into it. Like I said, walking
Yeah.
shallow Library of Alexandria.
Yeah, yeah. Now, something I would love to talk about, and that's authority and hierarchy, because TE is a lot about not necessarily respecting authority or hierarchy, but knowing what it is. Like, oh, this is the hierarchy. Okay, these are our roles, like that kind of thing. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't. And I find it so interesting that those two types, ENFP, ESFP, tend to reject those things when they're younger, and then that could easily be through all of their 20s and maybe up till midlife. And yet there is a certain point where they get promoted. Of course, both types often get promoted into positions because they have good people skills. Like either there's the illusion of getting things done and they're just like they're talking, or ESFP. I got to give kudos to ESFP. Their ability to be aware of and bypass bureaucracy is amazing. Like the ESFP knows in the institution, like maybe they're like, and this was true when I was teaching at UCLA. So I shared an office for a while with a personal assistant there to another like bigwig professor, and she was an ESFP. Loved her. She's great. Um, a lot of her job was bypassing rules, like in practice. And she enjoyed it because it's like, oh yeah, I have to fill out a little bit of paperwork, but most of it is just bypassing it. And I got to give them kudos for that. And ENFP, I have seen ENFPs in position of power, and they become aware of the fact that the system around them is very corrupt, and they're just like, yeah, but this is the TE system. Like, I'm just going to go along with it. And that doesn't happen when they're young. Like the teenager ENFP will be like, this is wrong, and we're going to protest, and I'm going to go to this person and convince them otherwise, and whatever. And they might succeed. But when they get older and the TE is like more present there, they just sort of accept like, oh yeah, the world is rotten. And I'm just like, and I'm in this position of authority. Somehow people promoted me. I don't even know why I'm here. I think the chancellor of UCLA was an ENFP. While I was there, Gene Block. Dude literally said, he's like, I don't even know how I got to this position. And he just like faked it the whole way, like all the time, just faking it.
Smoke and mirror.
And he's not even using, like he's in the hierarchy, but he's at the top of the hierarchy. So he's like, yeah, I'll just accept the system the way it is, the institutional failures, and just like ride with it. And I think in part that's the FI being like, I'm just taking care of myself at the same time. And so there's like a selfishness combined with, now I know how to manipulate the hierarchy of the system, which is not pretty. I'm like, you are complicit. Like you are definitely, I know you think you're all like moral and everything with your FI, but like you are complicit in the system. Like I, even as an INTJ with TE second, like I refuse to be complicit. Because my like 10-year-old child FI is going to be like, no, like I just can't fake it. Like I'm not going to do it. Even if it's bad for me, I'm not going to do it.
I think
And that's, yeah, it's just a funny thing around. And I think this is an issue not when they're younger, but when they're older, like midlife onward. It's like this acceptance of the rottenness of the world, because they're just like, oh, there's TE everywhere. Like, may as well just accept it.
Yeah, I think a lot of them end up like you'll see some like the mayor for New York, Mandani.
Yeah.
We typed him ENFP.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
But like a lot of times they're in these roles because they're championing some cause with FI, but they have these NF values attached to them, and they have these NF like kind of thought processes of things that they think would work that ain't gonna work. So that's one thing you will see with them. Is just like they're too idealistic. The ENFP. But I think they do pretty good at getting things done. But they'll usually have a good team around them. And so they'll start a type. So they'll start a lot of stuff, but they'll have a lot of anchors around them being other people, and then they'll just keep going based off that. ESFP, I don't really know how they get anywhere. To be honest, I just like
Bill
I feel like
Clinton, Bill Clinton, you know how they get to where they are. It's like they rely upon pure animal magnetism, and just like what is it? What is it? David Kiersey, I think, called it whistling past the graveyard. And is just like, yeah, I'm seeing all this stuff and all these things that could bring me down and this and that, and I'm just gonna keep going on my merry way. And just by the power of people liking me, I mean, people commented that even though we were like diehard opponents of Bill Clinton, they said once he entered the room, they're like, you couldn't help but like him. And he knew also, like, when push came to shove, like, he could do TE stuff. And I know some people think Bill Clinton is an ENFP,
yeah, we
but
got
I
him
think
ENFP.
in the role,
We got him ENFP, but
yeah, but I would say it's the role of being president, and some people are more abstract in their roles, like a leadership position. But dude, like, look at his dark side. All of his weaknesses were SP weaknesses. Like
I don't know. High NE is practically like high SE, man. High NE is SE is. Well, what about this possibility over here? I need the experience. I need the experience, and they like
Mhm.
they can be nuts. Any DOMs can be nuts with the experiences that they want because they have the rose-colored glasses, and their life is just like I want to experience new things because I've thought about all these possibilities, and I want to explore it. I don't know what I really want until I explore it. While like SC, like I said, like it's more inside of a like I like to say a farm. So it's got a limitation to it, while any has no limitation. Like there's no limitation
Oh
to
yeah,
it.
yeah. SE tends to circulate inside the same environment. So like if they grow up in like a neighborhood, you might get to age 60 and they are still living in that same neighborhood, and they're just doing variations, and this is like an SP temperament thing. They're just doing variations on the same thing that they were doing in high school.
Yeah,
And it's just around and around. So that's why often
the
you have
farm.
an ENFP, because you look at their work history and they did like 20 completely different things that seem unrelated to each other. And the ESFP is like been basically doing the same thing or pretty close to the same thing.
Yeah, they
Like
can't.
even though my stepmother, as an ESFP, did do a variety of things in her life. Like she did everything. Like she was a beautician, she worked in a hospital as like emergency nurse, all of that. They were still very hands-on kinds of things or interacting with people kinds of things. And she was always still in the same environment, circulating using the same skills. It was never like, oh, this is a new story and adventure. Whereas ENFP is like the new adventure that they're starting in something completely new. Um, and then you try and bring in TE to something, and they can do it really well sometimes. And then, as you said, like it's shallow,
Yeah,
and that's
like
yeah,
for Bill Clinton, I think he's just lucky he had Hillary Clinton. She's an INTJ,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like he can just off front all of the shit onto her. Like, hey, I'm the guy who looks good, talk to people, shake hands, get people moving, but I'm gonna just offload the shit onto her.
I mean, we all know. I mean, I think all Americans pretty much have known for decades that that power couple, like who was the actual Machiavellian person, like that
Oh,
was Hillary.
yeah,
Hillary,
for
yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
like, no question. Bill Clinton is there to like show up and smile and shake hands and do some other things. And I say this because my dad and stepmother like lived 20 years in Hot Springs, Arkansas, which was Bill Clinton's hometown. And
Jesus.
sorry, this is my Arkansas accent coming out. And you want to know shit on that couple or like their secrets? Like just go to Hot Springs, like, and talk to the older people there. Like they all know what those things were, and a lot of that stuff is true. But that's
Oh,
really, it's a really interesting case where yes, starter type, and yet able to put on the TE as it's needed, especially in small ways. Keep to the timetable. We're going from this thing to that thing, whatever it is. You ask them to give some reasons, they can make up some reasons.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when my sister, she told me who was ENFP, she discovered the power of making up reasons for things.
That's any dom. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
any dom. Like
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, and she
any.
she had
Yeah.
learned type by then, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." But then she realized, she's like, "Wait though, Dario, like you give reasons for things all the time, but when I think about them, for most of them, obviously there are things I get wrong too." But she's like, "It's like you've thought about it, so like, what are you doing? That's like, you just do it more. Like, what is it?" And I'm like, "Well, first of all, I do TE enough to know to not trust it. Like, it's really good, but yes, I can make up for reasons for anything, and that's like really scary in a way." Like, and I've seen it, like ENTJs are great at coming up with like, "Oh yeah, just come up with a reason for this, and I'm going to tell everybody this." Knowing I can tell, like, if it does, it's probably going to work out, and if it doesn't work out, I'll just like not even mention it and make up some new reasons. And I just told my sister, it's like, yeah, it's a superpower to make up reasons, and you're going to convince people, but like, be very careful. Like, you need to have actual evidence, because TE is at its best when it has like literal, like measurable evidence. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be tangible, but it does need to be measurable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, but I don't know. I see it. There are some ENFPs who think they really are the smartest person in the room once they discover TE. And TE plus NE looks really smart.
Mm-hmm.
Just be careful.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about the see if you guys are watching Dario right now, he took a TE parent role, right? He's trying to parent the TE child. So like you guys get very versed at it, you can kind of see it play out in people, like the tone change. Like you need to be responsible with the way you use TE parent, right?
Yeah, for
INTJ.
sure.
So like you'll see it come out, you'll see it in people, Like I said, like pay attention to people's energy and the archetype that comes out and you'll be able to, okay, I'm seeing what's going on here. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And that is, while we're on the topic of the second function, that is a challenge. Where our second function, we're really good at parenting, like giving advice. Like INTJ, ISTJ can give good TE advice to other people, and we can do TE, but we don't necessarily follow our TE advice, like our own advice. And that can be like, I've done this where I've run workshops on like relationships, and a person came to me afterwards, and he's just like, "Oh, like, I'm a couples therapist. This was a really great workshop. Like, where is your practice?" Like, he's curious. Like, "Do you practice in LA, whatever?" And I'm like, "Oh, like, I don't work with couples at all. Like, I'm just going off of, in this case, like NI plus TE,
Hmm.
like, and just like and just like a little bit of FI, keeping it real, and that's it." Um, so, but like, there's a danger sometimes with the second function, but would I follow my own advice in relationships? Because then, the moment we get into relationships, all of our skills, our type skills, strengths tend to break down as we get like more and more intimate with the other person, and
Hmm.
the shadow stuff starts to come out, and like the mistakes come out, and we're like operating from our third, fourth, sixth, seventh function, and we're just like, "Oh my God," like ENFJs who are like miserable in their relationships, and we're all like, "But you have FE. Like, what happened?" But they're like, FE isn't working because they're like stuck in their child function with their partner, if their partner has also that function.
Well, I
And
think
I
I
mean, that's a beautiful thing about relationships, but is also dangerous.
I think when you're looking at like an ENFJ, right, and they're talking about being unhappy, it's probably because they're not being rewarded for the hero function.
Hmm.
So that means this person is primarily might be an FI user because a lot of times FI will just assume that you're gonna fucking just do it for them for no reason and not express gratitude. But I do think like FE users kind of understand that like you should say thank you, all this other stuff. I think that's a thing that like FI users have to actually work on to realize that like people aren't just doing shit for you just because you exist.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that, and the thing about FE users is, as time goes on and you do not show gratitude, they're gonna be fucking annoyed, right? They're just not doing it for fun. So like for me, I know like my friend Jay's ENFJ, like I know like yo to thank him for what he does, and then he lights up like a candy tree, because he wants to
Mm.
be rewarded for his hero function. If you're in a relationship and your hero function is not being rewarded, I don't know how long you can endure that. I really don't know how long you can endure that. And to go back onto like what you were saying about your TE, the reason why you say you don't really follow your TE is because you're giving people TE, but your TE takes lessons from NI. So it's a different factory. It's a different
Yeah.
chain of command. So like people think that like you're getting out there and you're leading with TE, but really TE is getting impacted by NI. NI is telling the TE what to do. So that's why you don't listen to TE, because TE comes in, is like, shut the fuck up. Like, yo, you're not running the show. I'm running the show. Get the fuck out of here. Go do what I tell you to do. So like that's the reason why like you say like I don't follow my own TEs. Like, yo, you're my assistant. You don't tell me what to do. You tell these guys what to do, but you don't tell me what to do. So that's the role that NI kind of gives TE behind the closed doors, what people don't see. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times you're going to interact with people with your extroverted functions. But yeah.
Yeah, and when the first and third functions, like the hero and the child pair up, sort of like in The Mandalorian, for example, you got like the little kid and you got the hero there, and they're just like, yeah, we're the dynamic team. And then that's pitting the first and third function against the second function, and the second function doesn't have a chance. For the reasons exactly you said. Plus, there's this little child function. It's like, but me, but me, but me, and it really like brings, it's like cute and it's animated and it gives energy, and like how can, it's hard to say no to the third function,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's why you like got to be very careful with a lot of people, because I tell them that like if you're an adult and like you're looping, like you're not gonna stop looping. I'm sorry, like you've been doing this your entire life, so it's hard to like override that and then change it, right? You're not just gonna like, let's say if you're an INTJ and you've been NIFI like your entire life, and now you all of a sudden find out you're an INTJ and like you want to develop your T, it's too late. It's too late.
Mm.
It's too late. It's too late. I mean, but you can try, but yeah, I think the aspects of TE that people miss is the marshaling of resources and people, right? A lot of times because we're in typology, people look at it from an aspect of like information and all that, but that's usually
Mm.
the introverted version of TE. The extroverted version of TE is the marshaling of resources, people, and all the stuff that get things done.
Timetables, yeah,
So like
productivity.
if you put an ENFP in a place where they gotta direct people, move people around, account for this, they're gonna burn out quick, right? Uh, that's where you'll kind of see that TE child blow up, is because when it comes to like, Thomas, you go over there, Dario, you go over there, you finish this in 3 hours, have this done in 7 hours. We're gonna have this plan done in 5 days. That's when they're gonna burn the hell out. They can't keep up with that, right? You need higher TE for that.
Yeah, and it's funny. I have seen. I mean, living in Hollywood, there was a time when I had a friend of mine. I mean, you still know him, but a little bit of an evil dude. But he's a ENFP. But
ENTP.
yeah, no, he's ENFP. But
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
wow.
I mean, not like evil and like a hurting people kind of way. Not like that. Just as like the FI is like extra selfish. Um, and he could absolutely direct like episodes of a TV show. And they would all be done very quickly. And he was doing coached reality TV. So they're actors, it isn't a real reality TV. They're actors playing parts and all of that. And he loved it. But the shoot was usually over in 3 to 5 days. And all of the TE that he was doing was then done in 3 to 5 days. It was not one of those where you need to like a James Cameron, we're going to shoot 5 movies, a couple of them simultaneously with like new technology, and we're going to go for months and months and months. Like the ENFP would burn out so fast from that. And so my advice to any ENFP is you can do the TE, but like have it in small chunks, And for ESFP, just make sure there was a lot of action along with it. Like you're literally physically doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not physically doing stuff, you're going to burn out from the TE real quickly.
Yep. Gotta be action oriented. Yeah, yeah. Thomas, anything you want to add to that on TE there?
Um, I don't. I mean, I don't really know. I think you guys covered it. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've. It's just it's kind of funny. Like, when these types, they posture like they're knowledgeable, but then yeah, like you said, you do any digging into it, and it's like, at least the ENFP will pretend like they'll cover over it, but like the ESFP, it's like, oh shit, I know I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm not creative enough. I'm not creative enough to like pretend like I do.
Yeah.
I think with the TI trickster, they can kind of feel like it's almost like, oh, like anything could be true. Like I find some of them could be super gullible, um, because again they don't understand like the underlying principles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that anything can be true is kind of the ENFP more than the ESFP because
Yeah.
the
Oh yeah, yeah.
ESFP feel
Because the
concrete.
ESFP is like it
Well,
needs
the
to
NE,
actually
yeah.
work in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And you said something, but like if you gave me this like weight loss thing and I didn't actually lose any weight, obviously this doesn't work. And so they're going to move to the next thing. Whereas I've seen ENFPs literally pursue things for years, and I'm like, this is not working.
Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
you notice it doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we on to the next one. Who's our next victim?
Our next victim, because we talked a little bit about extroverted sensing, is let's do ENFJ
The
and
ENTJ.
yeah, yeah, and ENTJ. They got to get their due as well.
Galactus.
Yeah, yeah. We got to give them the treatment as well. No, no, no. Okay, so that's not the right thing. Okay,
No.
where is this puppy? Okay, to get rid of that, just close the old window.
Yeah, I always find it like funny, like people can't tell the difference between like an ESFP or like other people. I'm like, yo, it should be blatantly obvious, bro. It should
Well,
be,
between ESFP and ENFP.
or just like in general, like or ESFP and any type. It's like, bro, you should be able to fucking tell that. Like, I don't know, like,
Yeah,
ooh.
but ENTPs are like the abstract ESFP. So
They really are.
so sometimes
They
sometimes you
really
might
are.
think this ENTP is an ESFP. So
No,
And,
I think that there's very much something to it. Like from the brain imaging, I saw that there are certain things that, and as a parallel, ENFP and ESTP have very much in common.
yeah.
Both types can be absolutely great con artists. They have super awareness of body language and voice tone and stuff like that. And you would think with ESTP, you're like, no, they're TI with SE. Aren't they going to be really concrete and then have this nerdy side? And yeah, they do, but they are so good with people because of their FE. And this ability to like with the SE to notice all these like physical details and then just sort of con people. And ENFP, I've seen it. I've encountered two ENFPs, absolute con artists, and it's that same like let's just fly past it and like say whatever we need to say. So it's but then that would mean that INTJ is the abstract version of ISFJ, which sounds really horrifying.
I
Um,
think I think it's kind of weird. I kind of look at the parents, the parent and the child combination, because those are the ones that can kind of like look similar because they loop. So like the abstract ISFP is the INTJ. It's kind of what I see because the looping. A lot of times people have trouble seeing the looping. So like they'll see FINI and see it the same as NIFI, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
those
yeah.
types of looping, like ESFP and ENTJ. Like a lot of people have trouble telling the difference between those two because they're TESE and they're looping between the two, and they can be very impulsive. ENTJs can be very impulsive, way more
That's
impulsive
why
than
in
people think.
Yeah, that's why in organizations where there are a lot of ESTJs, an ENFP will come along, and the ESTJ is like, this is just like a funnier, more creative version of me. And of course it's not, but the ENFP like is also a good actor. So they're just be, yeah, I'm gonna ride along, and mysteriously they do less work than the ESTJ does, but they just like slide right in there. Um, so there's a couple questions from here. Ben asked, "Can you talk about FE Child?" And I'm going to say we did that in the last
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, we talked
Yeah, yeah,
about.
we covered ENTPs in the last one. Then there's this question, can SE parent learn from the child or vice versa? Actually, can the parent ever learn from the child? Or can the hero learn from the child?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always like, even if something is the sixth function, like somebody who has it, like you could have a, like to give TI as an example. Okay, so TI is about these mental models and principles, and there's a whole process to it. But there could be somebody who has a version of TI. It's not their like preferred function, that is like really good principle, and maybe they didn't think through it themselves, they just adopted it, but it's better than what the INTP or ISTP has. And it's like, yeah, that's actually a really good principle if you don't get all caught up in like how they arrived at it. And it's the same, like sometimes I somebody will present some NI insight and I'm like, damn, that's like really good, like I'm gonna keep that, like thank you.
Yeah, what I've noticed with INTJs is like because they are communicating the same way and they see the world the same way, even if an INTJ is off with NI, right? Let's just say like they're off, they can
Yeah.
fine tune it very close and get in line with the other person's NI very quickly. Like, oh shit, it's like it's almost like it's almost like automatic. They can just switch. Like, okay, I see it that way now. You know, all they need to do is like turn a little bit, like 30 degrees, and it's in the same spot. Um,
You know,
but
that,
like,
that's why I can have some like have a conversation with somebody who's like a professional astrologer, and just like in like 1 minute, I'm like, okay, that's the reference point you're coming from. I'll join you in that reference point. Like, why not? Like, it is not. Maybe I'll even learn something from it, or at least it'll be entertaining. But like, yeah, I think anytime when we share a function, especially a preferred one. I have watched an ENTJ on the phone do like entrepreneurial pitching and stuff like that, to like CEOs. And every step of the way, I understand what he's doing. I don't want to do it. I don't feel motivated to do it. I'm not as slick as he is, but I understand what he's doing. And I'm like, wow, if I actually stopped to like take notes and model that, I could probably do it too. It just isn't in my NI interest or FI interest to be like, yeah, I want to start a new company. I'm
yeah,
like, shit, that sounds like a lot of work.
yeah, that's a
And
lot.
even if it's getting other people to do the work,
That's a
like,
lot.
I'm just like, because my NI feels like if I can get other people to do the work, then what I'm doing is not original enough, which is like a weird thing to say, but it's,
I noticed with INTJs, they're so much big on the process that they can't let nobody else do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So like they have to manage the process so fucking much
Yeah.
that they can't let somebody else do the work because they're not looking at the outcome. It's like, oh, you put that block wrong, and then they see you put the block wrong a fucking again, and it's like, okay, get the fuck out the way. I'm gonna put the block here. You
yeah,
know.
exactly. Oh my, yes.
So it's usually it's a process outcome thing that's going on there. But I'm gonna answer the question. She said SE parent learns from SE. Yes, I think you can. The SE child can teach it how to be like to let loose and just enjoy things. While like the SE parent is a little bit more uptight. Parent functions are gonna be a little bit more uptight. While the child functions are a lot more loose. So it can like allow you to like look at SE from like a more fun perspective instead of just being uptight about it. While like
Mm.
from SE Hero, they just showing you like
It's
sometimes hero and parent they kind of get annoyed at each other,
yeah.
but I think you can learn how to be more out there with it, right? Because the parents are going to be a little bit more conservative with it, while the hero is just out there full blazing. And
Spamming.
he's gonna spam it. He's gonna take his lumps, while the parent is like kind of hiding in the back a little bit. So I think that's one thing that you could probably learn to be more bold. SE hero is way more bold than SE parent. So I
Yeah,
think
I agree completely. That's a great way of saying it. I feel my TE is very conservative in the way it operates, and it's not willing to take its lumps in the way that NI can be just like, yeah, I can even have like a terrible psychedelic trip and like say that was amazing afterwards because that's just like part of the process. You learn from it. But TE is just like, what you doing wasting time writing this fiction? That ain't gonna sell. Like, well, what are you doing? And then I have to like negotiate internally with my TE so I don't feel guilty that I spent time reading a book or like writing a story or something.
you just gotta tell it's part of the NI.
Yeah, I gotta give it promises. Be like, yeah, we're just spending 3 weeks on this, and we're like, And that's it. And if I have to stop at the end of 3 weeks, I'm going to do that. And TE is like, you're not bullshitting me again, are you? Because I know TE is always like, you take twice as long as you think it's going to take.
Jesus.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny as
And
hell.
it's the same. I feel like we're going to talk about ENTJ and ENFJ, that their use of NI, I know this sounds weird to say, but is so conservative from my like hero perspective. Is like it's always the safe version of NI. And it's like, yeah, I went to like a meditation retreat like 9 years ago. And I got this insight, and they've been riding that insight ever since. And I'm just like, okay, that's good. That's not a bad insight, but like your life has changed in the past decade. Like it is time to like break out and try some other techniques. Um, yeah, so somebody pointing out here, there's some interesting stuff. ENTJ had a few ENTJ clients, and I mistyped them at first because they're burnt out and resemble other. Yeah, ENTJs and ESTJ. ESTJ is funny when they get burnt out. It's like a different kind of burnt out, but poor ENTJ, when they're burnt out, they're just like a lump of coal at the end, and they're doing a whole bunch of SE stuff to distract themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, and I do know
And
this.
moody, and they get really moody.
Yeah, brother is an ENTJ who wrote. I want to say he didn't write The Expanse. He co-wrote The Expanse. So that co-writing is like very different because, as you said, like TE is going to recruit other people to do stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I would be very surprised if he did the majority of the work.
They never do. It's like like I always joke around saying like TE Dome equals basically I'm the quarterback, and like how the quarterback gets all the fame while like everybody forgets about the center and the receivers and the running back. It's like the quarterback gets all of the fame, gets all of the rewards, and that's what TE does, Like it puts you in all these places, and I get all the benefit from it. Like if we lose, I take all the benefit too. I mean, take all the loss as well, but like generally speaking, they get all the praise while
No,
everybody
no,
else is doing all the
my
work.
experience with ET types is when it works, they take the praise and the benefits, and when it doesn't work, they take what they can get as the benefit, and then offload the failure onto everybody else. And I have an inside scoop about a former bank, Washington Mutual, and how the executives absolutely screwed the company. And because the people working there, like my friends who were in it, knew type, and they're like, yeah, it was a bunch of ET types. They like literally flew away on their jets the night before, like taking out millions of dollars, and then just like let the company collapse the next day. Didn't suffer. None of them suffered a single like investigation or like downside. They just offloaded it onto all their millions of customers and be like, oh yeah, so sorry, but they flew away in their jets. And I feel that's a very like ET thing to do.
Shit, ENTJ got an INTJ to write award-winning sci-fi series.
Yeah,
Or take
yeah.
INTP shit. Like INTPs, like usually just give it up. It's funny as hell. But if the parent is playing a little safe, is that something dealing with how the critic function, with how the critic functions, or where the critic has been is trying to manage from where it's been? Critic and parent kind of go together, guys. That's one thing
Yeah.
that I should notice. Like, usually, if you're dealing with a critic, like I've always said, like you want to listen to the parent, right? You want the critic to get off your ass, listen to the parent, right? INTJ probably gonna rip you apart with TI critic, and then be like, okay, but read this book, okay? But read this book, right? You read the book, they love you, okay? You don't read the book, they fucking hate you, okay? Or it's just the same thing with anything, like SC critic, right? They're gonna criticize you on what you're wearing, but they want you to adjust to their traditions and culture or whatever. You listen to them, they love you. Okay, if you don't, you're gonna keep getting critic, right? So it's like a 1-2 punch, man.
I absolutely, and I want to say to folks that there is a tremendous amount of data behind what you just said. With the 200,000 data points that we have from the Keys to Cognition assessment, that what Mina Barmani likes to call it is the tricycle model. That the second and sixth function, the parent and the critic, tend to, not in everybody, but statistically tend to work quite closely together. And I see it in myself. Like there was a time when I was an undergrad, I didn't quite know type yet, but I knew anytime like I had a TI professor who give like one principle and half of an example, and it'd be like, dude, you are such a bad teacher. And then there was a transition by the time I was 25 and certainly by 30, where I'm like, this TI thing is awesome. Like, you can have principles and like they apply in any situation. Like, if they're a good principle, like this is amazing. And it's very true. Like, using it as a critic is okay, but make sure you like actually bring in the positive thing as the solution.
That's what
And
the
if you
does wrong.
don't, you're just absolutely going to get more critic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Yes.
Yeah, I think like a lot of times you'll see with underdeveloped critic functions is they'll criticize something, but they don't teach people how that they can perform better or do better with that function. So the critic is quick to rip people down, but it doesn't really like tell you exactly like what you can do to make that better, right? Like if you're watching or something, like a lot of times SE critic won't tell you like, oh, you know, like you can do all this other stuff to perform better. They'll just be like, you're performing bad, or like you're wearing the wrong stuff or whatever. And instead of like saying like, hey, you're wearing the wrong stuff, but like if you do this, then people will accept you better. Like, and I think the difference between like a parent function and a hero function is they're willing to work with people, while a
Mm,
critic is not willing to work with you. It's just gonna demonize you and slam you. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Good stuff. So let's talk about ENFJ and ENTJ and extroverted sensing. I have one parent here, and I have a couple of friends over the years, of course, seeing this. It's really, really funny to see how SE shows up for types that on the surface you would think like, well, I don't know, like what exactly does it mean? Um, because you would think like with ENFJ in particular, they have this thing where they're like just not in the present moment. That they will stub their toe, they will like walk past something and completely not notice it. And then on the other hand, they're out dancing. And you're like, I don't understand. Like, how can you like constantly run into things on the one hand, not like the really obvious things, but because I'm like, because they're in their head with NI. But then on the other hand, be like an amazing dancer. Like, where is the like what is that? I find one of the most common themes is this obsession with health and body, that on the one hand, they constantly abuse their bodies far more than INTJ or INFJ would. Like INTJ, INFJ is tired, and we're just like, I have to leave. Like now, my battery is at 2%. Like I'm leaving now. I'm shutting down. ENFJ and ENTJ, I know an ENTJ who will stay up for 3 nights in a row
Donald Trump.
because he's FOMO. Like he does not want to miss any business opportunity, any meeting. Like he'll just fly here and fly there. And I'm like, dude, how much have you slept? And he's like, like 1 or 2 hours. And then he's like constantly obsessed that he like might have cancer. And I'm just like, dude, like where is that coming from? Maybe if you treated your body better, like your body would treat you better. And I think that there's this like hero judgment of something and wanting to control it. Like I'm just controlling my body rather than just like actually enjoy it. I'm like, all the stuff that you do, like, do you actually enjoy these physical things? Or are you just doing them because? Like, and then they're gonna say yes. Like sometimes they really enjoy it, and sometimes they're just like, oh, I didn't even feel what I was doing.
Yeah.
This is such a weird thing. I don't know. Like I've seen it up front, and yet, and you would think because we have it, us three here, as like fourth function, it's not so far away from our experience, but apparently it is.
I think what you'll see with like I think a great example if anybody wants to see SE Child on display at all times, just look at fucking Donald Trump. Eats McDonald's, like it doesn't really care. Everybody's telling him that McDonald's is bad. He's like, well, maybe they don't. Maybe the health nuts don't know what maybe the health nuts don't know what he's talking about, right? Because like we say, the child function has to double down on whatever it's doing, right? Everyone knows he only eats McDonald's. Like people come to the White House and he makes them eat fucking McDonald's, right? or just like being impulsive, like always got to be on the front page, always got to see me, look at me, just impulsive. Like you see him like changes. He's always reacting to the most current fucking news, right? He doesn't like a lot of people like, oh, he's not long-term thinking, and it's because that SC fucking child, he continues to loop between those two. So it's like, what is current and what can we do? What is current with TE and what is SC, what we could do right now? And he continues to do that. Like, he's not like, okay, what's the long-term vision? Like if you play him out against Putin, like Putin has a long-term vision that he's sticking with the Ukraine war, right? He's a finisher type. While Donald Trump is reacting to the news. He's reacting to the news and what is the polls. If you see him, he's always talking about, oh, look at the stock market numbers. Stock market numbers have always been the greatest. He's reacting to that. The stock market number dropped too much, he'll change what the hell he's doing. Because the TESC, right? He's going TESC. Okay, stock market changing, I gotta change something. Instead of saying like INTJ would think long term, like, okay, we're gonna take a loss in the stock market to get to this eventual outcome. While he's just like, okay, I'm a TESC. So if you want to see him on public display, just cut on it. Whenever you see TV, you'll see him be an SE child like you've never seen. I know a lot of people type him ESTP, but Donald Trump has no TI. There's no TI in his brain. There's no logic. There's no FE. He literally blasts everybody, reporters, everything. There's no FE with this guy, and there's no TI. It is just TESC. It's a very underdeveloped ENTJ, but
and I want to say that regardless of a person's perspective on Trump's type, which I think for some people Trump is triggering, so it's a little bit hard to see his type. That what you've described well, though, is a childish acting SE, regardless of the type. Like this impulsiveness, which is there, and it can be when it's effective. It's very tactical. Like in basketball, you got to be very tactical. In soccer, you got to be very tactical. Like you don't know what's coming up, so you like adjust as you go. And I can even think like even when it's a little bit more considered. So I'm thinking like an ENFJ. ENFJ can end up being very tactical about relationships, and they're just responding to the latest thing that somebody said and how to fix that, instead of being like, is this actually a good relationship for me? And even though you would think like, no, but they have NI and FE, but then the FE and the NI just take a little bit of a back seat, and there's just that drama and excitement of the SC being like, yeah, but we can go play together in this relationship and be intimate and passionate. And oh, then they said something that insulted my FE. And then they want to do like this little tactical thing of like, oh, but if I say this back to them, like that will fix everything. And it might if they're really smart. But a lot of times ENFJ and ENTJ burn their bridges. And so with their SE, and they're like, oops. They don't necessarily notice the oops, but everybody around them does. So my big advice to ENFJ and ENTJ is not everything you do is reversible, is fixable. Like you do something with SE or like FE, SE is like looping. That does not mean you can go back like tomorrow and do like a little tactical SE thing and like fix it. And it's just like you have NI, like let it step up a little bit more, but then the NI is often best in service of giving advice to others or just holding to this general vision rather than let me look at the situation from like 5 different perspectives for long term, which is what the INFJ or INTJ is going to do. INTJ, when they have a vision, like that did not just randomly occur to them. Like they would have stopped and thought like, I don't know, I actually have 5 different visions, like which one should I prioritize? And ENTJ is, with the SE or ENFJ with the SE is just like, yeah, let's just have fun with this. And if something goes wrong, we can fix it. And then it's like super unrealistic, sometimes grandiose goals because the NI parent is like, look at this gorgeous map and you can do it because you've done it before. And they probably have done it before. So they're like, yeah, I can do it again. And then so often also, and this is another theme, there's like this little adolescent fun thing that they can get distracted by, and then they look up like 3 years later and they're like, oh shit, like what happened? Like my dream did not happen. And usually also because they expect other people to adhere to their dream. And that you cannot make other people do stuff, not in reality. Even ENTJ, like, I don't care. You can put like ankle bracelets around people to monitor their productivity. ENFJ, like, you can have 15 talks with them. That doesn't mean the person's going to do what you want them to do, like, or that they're even capable of it.
Yeah, I think my buddy he's an ENFJ and he is always ready to celebrate.
Yeah.
He could get a fucking mail in the what you call it, say he won something or anything. He's willing to celebrate. He gets a new job. He's ready to celebrate. I'm like, bro. I'm like, bro. Like you gotta. Like, bro, he's just ready to celebrate and have a good time at any time. And I just like,
Mhm.
he's ENFJ and is like, bro, like, just because you got a new job don't mean you need to celebrate or like, just like he's always gonna drink. He's always gonna drink. He's always gonna explore. He's always gonna have a good time. I don't know. I think the ENFJ has a lot harder than the ENTJ because there's no TE. There's just FE. So
Yeah.
like when it comes to like health and stuff like that, like he also has had a heart attack. He was like playing football in the sun, and he had like this. He was trying to lose weight, so he had like this. Was it the fat suits? With the. And I said, yo, dumb ass is out there in the fat seat out there in the summer and had a heart attack. Like you can't be this fucking stupid. But that's that SI trickster there. And I mean, the worst thing is his fucking memory. Holy, like I can tell Jerry something. Like I've literally been working the same schedule. Thomas knows my schedule by now for 4 fucking years, and he calls me every week and asks me, "You off tonight? So we can go out? Are you off tonight so we can go out?" And it's been every fucking week, like every week, and I'm just like, this guy still doesn't remember my schedule, like, and me and him talk damn near like every 2 days or something, and he still does not remember my schedule. And it has been the same schedule. Mercer works Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He's off Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Goes back to work Sunday. And he asks me every fucking week. It's that memory. It's just the memory. I mean, even if in Donald Trump's documentary, he used to ask this guy about his parents that died, like every time he saw him. And his parents had died like 10 years ago. And he would always ask about the dude's parents. It's like SI Trixie just does not remember shit. Like I could tell Jerry something, and if I don't the ENFJ got it worse. If I don't tell him something immediately that he can do, and it's like it's something that he has to remember, he's gonna forget. He's gonna forget. Like it's gone. It's gone. Like he'd be like, "What you said again?" I'm like, "This motherfucker, man, driving me crazy." It's like it's gone. Like his memory is just not there. Like it doesn't matter what it is. I could tell him something, he'll ask me again tomorrow, or he'll ask me 30 minutes later. It's like, oh my god, bro.
Yeah. So this raises we have a question here, which I think is a really good one. So what's the difference between SE, hero, and child? If they're both spamming or can spam, and how do you bypass your own SI trickster? Well, I mean that's a whole other subject, like talking about the trickster. But I would say a big piece of what you're talking about is let's take ESFP and because they have SE, and they can be spamming stuff, and they don't necessarily have a routine or anything like that because their SI is a shadow function, and the fifth function, they understand or appreciate when other people do it or maybe how to bypass it, but they're not doing it much themselves. Then there's ENFJ, who can keep a schedule by willpower, like the FE is just going to be like, oh, just support my family and this and that, but they don't want to keep a schedule like that. That's not what they're going to do. And the memory of the SI, this trickster, is like completely not there. The ENFJ and ENTJ have no understanding. I think, and this is interesting with ENFJ, because ENFJ has this FE, and they don't quite understand because they don't have SI, that when they create a negative, like emotional experience for somebody, that the other person is going to end up with an SI imprint of that, if that makes sense. And it's just like that's a blind spot. Whereas for say
Fuck you back.
ISFP has like the sixth function, the critic, which is like works in tandem with SE. And the ISFP can be like, yeah, I'm dedicated to dance and I practice every day. If that really is something that they want to do. And I'm not saying they have a schedule, but they remember shit in a way that the other two don't. And it is sort of interesting to see that. And of course, the ESFP generally has better memory than ENFJ does. And then the ENFJ is just better at abstract thinking, like the metaphors and all of that. Like the ENFJ is not going to get lost in a metaphor. Like when you give them something, like
Mhm.
they're a lot smarter than that. Like in terms of that level of abstraction.
I don't know about that, Dario.
Well,
Because that Ti
I mean,
child, I mean Ti inferior is something else. You better make
yeah,
sure
yeah, yeah.
you,
So I right. So what I would say is the funny thing
you
is
better make
ENFJ
sure.
tricks themselves when they bring in their TI like baby function. Then they even like they make themselves stupid in a way by being like, oh, but wait, I should analyze what they're saying, and they end up very serious about something that the other people just meant as like, oh, I was just giving a metaphor as like a colorful introduction or like a colorful way to understand. ENFJ can be really smart, and then they get in their own way with TI coming in to make sense of it, and that happens a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Um,
Thomas had to go. I think
yeah,
Thomas had to go at 4, but yeah, I think with what you'll see with the someone asked the difference between SE hero and SE child. So what you'll see is that one is way more childish and like it is not as it doesn't really learn as well over time. Because like the opposing function or the nemesis, whatever you guys want to call it, I really call it the overtime function because it learns and it stores data over time and it corrects the hero, and so the hero gets better with exposure to the opposing personality. So like as an ESFP or ESTP, they're gonna do SE things, but they're gonna store the bad things that happen so that they can correct their SE over time. While like the ENFJ or the ENTJ, they're not so much going to be able to store the SI. So you could kind of see them bump their head a couple more times before they finally fucking learn. And if you want to get over your trickster, I think the best thing you can do is lean into your parent function because, like, let's say for instance, if you have a like, let's say for ENFJ, ENTJ, if they have a grand vision of where they want to go, they need to make sure that they're there and their body's there in the end of that vision, right? So you got to lean on your parent functions if you want to do the best thing that you can do for your tricksters. And I think the best thing for tricksters is just overall awareness. When you get awareness, you can do a lot better.
yeah, yeah. Just like with the INTJ, if they put their TE, their parent function, in charge of like good social behavior, like that isn't all like touchy feely and emotive and stuff, but it works like pretty well. Not perfectly, but it works pretty well. Like, yeah, we'll just be, oh, okay, my role is being diplomatic in this case. Like, what are the rules of that? Like, I can sort of cover that decently. But a lot of people underuse their second function and just for themselves. And so that's is good. What you said is good. Like, it's a good point.
All right. What
Yeah.
we got next? SI.
Yeah, let's do SI, and I am gonna find that in my where is that puppy? No? Okay, no, I did not close that. Okay, good deal, good
SI
deal.
is fun.
Yes, SI. Oh, INFP. Yeah,
An
and
INTP.
INFP.
I have my best friend's an INFP, and my girlfriend is an INTP. So, they are. Oh my god, I could talk a mile for SI child, man. Boy,
Okay,
they love talking about the past. Is what I would say. They love talking about the past. You got it up, Dar? You got it?
almost. Yeah, I found it,
Yeah.
and I just learned in order to get up, I actually have to get up the picture. I got to save it to the desktop
Oh, you found the
and
prop.
then open it. Yeah, because if I open it directly, it hates me. Um,
Oh, I see. I see. It says screenshot up there. Yeah.
yeah, okay. So we're gonna let that go. And now we're going to open. No, that's the wrong one. Where did I drag this puppy to? Okay, no, that is not either. Okay, I have a very no. I go through phases where I like clean up my stuff, and this is not. Oh, come on! I just saved this. Where did this go? Um, yeah, I got too many like screenshots recently. Okay, here we go. Okay, um, okay. Now we're gonna do this. Do do. Okay.
There we go. We got it on there, guys.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna let Dario go for it, and then I'll add in my experience with my girlfriend and my best friend.
Yeah. So I think a lot of this is, and it's funny because these two types are often involved in the type community. And when we know them, we might wonder at first, like, wait a minute, how do they do SI? Like, they're so not like the SJ types. That's perfectly fine. They're not. Because remember, the third function, the child, especially when it's in the neurotic zone, is done in a very extreme way. It's like all or nothing. It's either like I follow this daily habit every single day for 20 years, even though it's bad for me, or like, oh, I have absolutely no habits at all in this particular area, like diet or work or whatever, exercise, like whatever it is. So there tends to be extremes. And it's the same, like, yeah, I just have casual conversations about this topic, or they like dig in endlessly with all this research and listening and like gathering these like data points and like educating themselves on the topic. It's one or the other, and usually it's the easier path because it's not a priority for them. But when it does become a priority, like I know an INTP who's like super into exercise, and that is not typical for INTP. But his TI was convinced, like, oh, in order to succeed at what I want to do strategically, like, I need to work out. And he had to force his SI to like pick it up as a habit, which did not happen quickly. But then eventually got into the habit, and then he can repeat it every single day, and is just on repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, and it's just like there. Um, does he actually notice his body and body signals? Does he actually give care to it? Only if he investigates it. Only if the TI comes in and does something with it. Otherwise, it's just a habit that is on cruise control. So I would say SI shows up a lot for these types as cruise control.
Yeah, so I'm ready to hit them hard, hit them fair. I hit them hard, but hit them fair. So what I've noticed about these guys is they romanticize the past so much. Like they really like talking about the past, and it's almost like a child's talking when they talk about the past. Like my best friend will call me and she will talk about something from 10 years ago. I'm like, you don't remember this, do you? Hell no, I don't. So they really love talking about the past. Another thing is they really are childish about like their comfort, right? The situation that they're in. Like they really stick their foot in the ground when it comes to themselves, like stepping outside of their comfort, right? They're not going to be in an uncomfortable situation. It's going to be very hard for them to be in an uncomfortable situation and they're just not having it. They really care about their own personal experience that they get, right? Like, do not take away their personal experience. Like my girlfriend, like if she orders, like she buys some ice cream bars, right? And let's say I eat all the fucking ice cream bars, right? And she'll go in there looking for that experience and literally throw a temper tantrum because she's not able to get that experience that she's looking for. She's like, I was looking for that. Like I had plans for that, and to me, it's like kind of childish, but like the same thing happened with my INTP coworker. Somebody like she put these drinks in the fridge and somebody went in there and drank them. And she literally was like so mad all night, and I kept fucking with her about it. Because I was just like, it's like SI child. Like she's wanted that experience. Somebody took it away from her. She's like, I don't know why people would ever take somebody else's stuff or do something like that. And me personally, I'm just like, I wouldn't really care. It's like $4 sodas or something. But she's like stern on like, basically like they robbed me of this experience that I was looking for, right? It's very important for that experience. All right, my girlfriend, she could come in my house and she knows when things are out of place. it's crazy. Something like I've never seen. Like the INTP shit is like crazy. Like I moved, and like I moved in a different location in the same building, and she was like, I don't know if I like this place better because in your old place I could hear all these noises, and in this place I can't hear any noises. So it kind of like reminds me of a murder movie or something like that. And I'm like, what the fuck, Because the SI, but to me, I can't even tell. Like, I can't tell these noises. I can't tell any of that stuff. So she's very, very like keen in on anything. Like, if I lose weight and she starts touching me, she can tell. It's like the SI is just like it's like scary. But what I've noticed about them is also the fashion. The SE trickster, like the fashion, like I was like, I need to go shopping with you to make sure you get the right clothes. Like she went to go shopping for herself, and then she's like sending me pictures of the shit that she bought, and I was like, what the fuck did you just buy? Like what the fuck? Like I had to like literally hold her hand to show her the clothes that she should buy because she's gonna go for comfort over everything. Like comfort is number one to her. Like she doesn't seem like the SE appeal to clothes. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to take your ass shopping. And my best friend, she used to wear like oversized stuff, and I used to get on her ass like, you need to start buying clothes that actually fit. And she's a woman. And I'm a guy giving a woman, fashion design, like what you call it, and it's because they have like no SE. They struggle with like being in the moment. So like driving for them is scary. Okay, driving for them is very scary because I think like their brains, they're here, and then they're not here. Like they're here and then they're in Narnia. Like it's hard for them to be physically present without like going into abstract realm. Like they just go straight into abstract realm because the SC trickster. Um, so like that's one thing that they can really struggle with is just being present, or just like the present moment will keep like evading them. Like my girlfriend was like I guess she finally realized that like we don't have a lot of pictures and stuff like that. And like she had missed all these moments, and now she's like whining about like missing the moments a year later, you know. While like as in somebody with high SC would like take advantage of that, take advantage of the moment, but it kind of evaded her, and she's like looking back like we don't have any pictures. I'm like, no, we don't have any pictures. She's like, oh man, I wanted to capture that, but the trickster keep eluding her. That's what I would say. I can say like they can be very stagnant people, while some types are very progressive, like where they always got to progress. These guys, progression is not their thing. They could pretty much stay in the same thing.
And it's so funny because the types, I mean, both of the types consider themselves very creative, imaginative, open minded, like all of these things that they present to the world through their parent function, extroverted, intuiting. But the fact is, when you scratch the surface and look underneath, like INTJ generally way more adventurous than INTP. INFJ in practice more adventurous than INFP. INFP can live in the same place for 50 years, and like literally 50 years, and not change anything about their routine. And I don't know any INFJs who are like that. Like they're just like, no, you got to get out and do something. And at the same time, I understand because it can be scary. I do know an INFP who, in his 50s, very type knowledgeable, senior member of the type community then. And he's just like, yeah, I took up like motorbiking because I wanted to develop my extroverted sensing. Of course, almost immediately, he got into a horrible accident. Nobody heard from him for a year. Like he was in a cast, like all of these things. I'm like, yeah, I don't think motorbiking is the best thing for an INFP to try out. Like,
You got the SE.
yeah, because his brain is going to go away from the moment, like immediately, and just be like, and then oops, like how am I upside down? And that's all it takes with those things, is like you take your brain off of what you're doing for 1 second,
They're gone.
and you might totally lose the train of what's happening. And yet I'm amazed, like Linda Barron's INTP could remember conversations she had from decades ago,
Yeah,
like
that's my
in
child.
detail, dozens of them.
Yeah, that's my child's actually really good with that. Like
Yeah.
it's like I said, like my girlfriend, like she could walk in my place and I could like have a door open that I usually don't have open. She'll be able to notice that. but it's like they don't get the whole scope of SI that uh, that you would have if it was a parent or a hero. They get kind of like this chopped up version of SI, like where
Yeah,
the
yeah,
memory is
yeah.
really good.
And
But
I would say when the with SI, especially this neurotic SI, is that they either strongly accept or strongly reject some kind of like mainstream establishment norm. So it could be, so a great example, I remember meeting this INTP psychology. He was no longer a professor, he was running his own company, absolutely wedded to five-factor model and statistical analysis. And for him, like he totally embraced that very conventional establishment way of doing something. The rest of his life, not necessarily. But I do find that there's like, especially with INTP, is there like there's like this few things where they just be like, everybody is using this. It must be the right thing to use, and their sort of mental model TI works out that like, okay, I'm going to trust these certified experts, or like this is the way you do something, and then they just adopt it wholesale and exclude everything else. And then you look at the rest of their life, and you're like, but you do all these other weird things. Like, why are you such like stuck on this one thing? In this one area of your life, and it's sort of interesting, and that's when oftentimes it's like you got to invite them to use their second function more, is like open your mind to the possibilities.
I think another thing, Dario, is that INTPs can live in sloth. Like they can have, like that guy who has like fucking soda cans and like all this other shit, like all over the fucking place. Open the door, they can barely open the door because all of the fucking shit in there. But as long as like they're comfortable, or like as long as they're happy, that they can live in it. But other people are like, what the fuck is this? And it's because they're devoid from reality. That SC trickster is gone. They don't even see that fucking noodle cup there that from 3 years ago. Fucking, like they don't even see all that shit. So that's one thing about them. Also, like very sensitive to their bodily experiences. My girlfriend's very sensitive to her bodily experiences. She's always whining about them. Like if she gets a bad like bodily experience, I'm like, I'm never gonna hear about the end of it from SHI. I'm never gonna hear the end of it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
and,
you know,
and I'm just like, there are solutions to this. Like maybe if you did like the sensible healthcare things every day, but it's really tough. It's like easier to complain about the weird body sensations than it is to actually go and do something non-mental. And that's whereas I feel like with a lot of other types, it's like, oh, you have a problem, like look for a solution to take care of it. And there very much is this like I feel discomfort, and I'm just going to focus on that discomfort and not actually do the things that are consistent care for my actual physical needs. Yeah, I know even an INTP, he picked me up in his car once. This is the first time I'd seen his car, and he had a huge spider web there that clearly like very dense and whatever. I think that spider itself died like years before, and he just never cleaned it off, and there's like no way that you can miss it. Like it's on the driver's side, there's no way you can miss it. Now I gotta give and I want to draw a
I don't know
comparison.
about the guy in that car, Dario. I don't know about the guy in that fucking
No,
car.
no, no. I know. And he said, no, I made an effort to clean the car before picking you up. And I'm like,
What?
dude, I cannot tell you, like, it doesn't bother me at like any visceral level, really.
It
But
does
I'm
bother
like,
me.
it's really weird, dude. Like, you can clean that, right?
My NE would have said, "What if you sit in this seat and there's more spiders here?"
Oh, well,
That's
no,
what
of
my NE would
course.
have said.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I did think at first, like, is there a spider there? And then
Is there more? If
is
there's
there
more here, there
more?
might be
Like, what
more.
is it? And I got to contrast this with an ENFP friend of mine who would let a spider live in the corner of his window because he developed like a narrative relationship with the spider. Like he didn't want to kill the spider, and he just wanted to like let it live its thing. Now, mind you, anytime the spider laid eggs, like he was sure to clear out the eggs. Like he was managing it, and it was for like a fun, like I want to say like narrative experiment, and just to let something live and see what happens, even though it's sort of gross. And it probably was biting him or whatever. But this guy, no, the INTP was like unaware of it until I pointed it out. So like he's like he had of course he was like I wasn't the first person to point it out, but I'm like, how can you not notice that? But that's what it is, and it's like this relationship between the third function and the seventh, between the child and the trickster. And if the trickster stuff doesn't even get in, the child is going to remain stuck in whatever it is that they're doing. And the same for INTJ. Until INTJs have like a relationship experience that actually breaks through their FE, like their FI is not going to learn. Like is not going to grow up until the trickster has like some kind of bad experience.
Yep. I'll say also like SI child is also very clumsy. Very, very, very clumsy. They run into walls. My girlfriend always says like she runs into walls and stuff like that. Like like I said, like there's like they take one step and they're in Narnia. Like and everything around them don't exist. So they're like or like you'll see like INTPs that say like these weird theories where like everyone is basically life is about their experience, like their own like subjective experience, and that nobody's experience is actually real, and that's because of that TISI. That they have this theory that they run with, and I'm just like, wow, this is fucking crazy. But
There is a lot of that. It's solipsism. So the only thing that exists in the universe is my own mind. Is that's the only thing I can be certain of, and that have like this SI experience around. And I'm just like, you only believe that because your SE is shit.
yeah, SE Trickster.
Like that's why. And it's like, by the way, if you noticed your model doesn't work, but if you used SE or maybe TE, and some INTPs and INFPs can be convinced to use TE to like gather data numerically. It says this, and INFP, this is aspirational, and when they actually do the big research study, like they will run with whatever result it is. If it's something that's conventionally accepted, like INTPs will learn and use statistical analysis because that's the tool you're supposed to be using, and everybody uses it, and this is what it says. But for the most part, when it actually is the lived in front of you, like extroverted sensing, how well does it work? Like an ESFP kind of thing is like, no, it doesn't happen. They just loop back to whatever their SI and hero function is.
Yeah,
I say it's like a rubber band. It's like it always goes back to its original shape.
and I'll say this as well. What I've noticed with INTPs is they're very smart people, but they have zero fucking common sense, and that's because of SC Trickster. And I've noticed another thing is like they're very smart people, but they cannot use their intelligence. It's like they cannot use it. Like they could be very smart people, but they cannot use like their intelligence. I don't know what is wrong with them. I don't think if it's a T or SE thing, but they cannot use it. Like they could go and talk about theories and all this stuff, but they cannot apply their thinking. They cannot. I don't know what it is. It's like very smart people, probably like 135 plus IQ, but they cannot use it. They cannot apply it. I don't know what it is. It's the S. I think it's the SE proponent of things, but they just can't. And I'm just like,
And yet, if their model that they've developed is really good, and they communicate that to other people, or other people figure out what it is, then that can have a really good positive
yeah,
impact. They themselves will not be implementing it. They're like,
yeah,
I am just a theory person, and that's it.
yeah,
And it's up to, and I think this can be like in history, there are probably a lot of INTPs who had some really good insights, and they never communicated them. They didn't apply them. Nobody picked up on them, and then they're lost to history. And like hundreds of years go by before somebody else picks it up again. And that's sort of a sad thing, because they can have some really genius ideas, and yet they're just not the application folks. And
and
that's why
yeah.
INTPs can do well if they're paired with somebody who is an application person.
Like even if you look at like I hate to say it, but David Kersey, Linda Behrens, and stuff
Yeah.
like they come up with the models and then they hand it over to us, and it's like, okay, we got this and we can use this. Like, like even you take Carl Jung, you take BB, all of them, and it's like, and when they talk, they put you to sleep. I hate to say it, they put you to sleep. Like INTP's talking when you're losing consciousness. But yeah. It's got to be brutal, man.
Now, I gotta say, I had one graduate school professor who I knew over 3.5 years, surely INTP, and he taught the fuzzy math classes. So fuzzy mathematics, that isn't just a euphemism for something or disparaging, like it's an actual discipline. And he was really passionate about the applications. Now, he didn't do the applications, but he was aware that the applications actually work, like a fuzzy math modeling approach to like drone movement and all that kind of stuff. Like that worked extremely well. So when he would talk, like I focused on the passion part of it, like his sort of baby FE that was there, like this can help humanity. And I think that's where INTP, if they actually connect to their idea about how it can help humanity, then, and the listeners are willing to like listen for that, then they actually can have a really positive impact. And people will be like, yeah, that's like, now I'm paying attention to the idea. And that's, but I think that's sort of rare. Like I don't think that's the norm, and that's and it shows up the same way. INTJs are a lot more effective as say teachers when they mix in experiential learning, like SE, rather than just being like I'm standing up in front of the board and I'm like teaching you stuff off of slides.
Yeah.
Like that's I would say for every type, like figure out ways to bring in your fourth function. You're just going to be more effective in life and more satisfied with that four function. And I have missed a variety of comments from people. Somebody's saying this is starting to make sense.
Yeah, really good. I think the thing is like when we're talking, it's the reason why these add a lot of value to people is because they have different proponents of people that they've met in life and they've seen these patterns play out, and it's like, oh shit, like now I got a name to that pattern, right? And then like you got a name to the pattern, right? And you're dealing with two types, right? I mean, from process of elimination, SC child is only two types. SI child is only two types, right? And then hopefully you're smart enough to, do the math to figure out what the type really is.
Now, there's a very good comment here. Let me scroll up for a moment because I do want to address this. Is that Jonathan Campbell here says, I'm a bit like that, INFJ, but I got health problems and routine feels like something I'm stuck in. So INFJs, I think this is an example where you need to dig one layer deeper. The INFJ is not lazy about making changes. Okay, the INFJ usually has health problems because of all 16 types. They are the biggest antenna for other people's energy. There is a tremendous amount of negative energy in society. So when you dig in, the health problems are not because they're not paying attention to themselves or like neglect. Usually if you ask about, they're like, oh, I do meditation, I do exercise, like I do yoga, like I take herbs, like all of these things. And I'm like, yeah, you're cursed to be like the antenna for humanity. And you have your 3-year-old or like 10-year-old TI that like is looping in like thought and like trying to figure things out all the time. And then anybody can be stuck in routine because once they have kids and get married and have a job, it's very difficult to escape the routine. Like we all live in an SJ world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, and so I think we do see that. And in fact, that's a good way to know is somebody INTJ or INFJ. INTJ usually sleeps much better at night. I just turn off my brain like 99% of the time. And like INTJ does not go around with a bunch of health problems because I'm not an antenna for other people's psychic problems. I can be, like I've become aware of that if I want to do that. And I'm like, wow, I don't know if I want to do that. That is like a tremendous responsibility and burden. So, and for anybody, any type who thinks that they're an INFJ, like they're ISFJ or ISFP, I'm like, are you an antenna for other people's psychic energy, whether you want it or not?
Yeah, FE is all taken in.
Yeah. And I know ISFPs who first score as INFJ, and I'm like, first of all, you sleep real good at night unless you're partying. And second of all, like, you don't actually seem to notice other people's energy at all. Like, you notice their like body language, but I don't see you absorbing their energy. And when you do notice stuff, you're just like, oh yeah, I'm like distancing myself from this person with bad vibes. And that's, that's another thing. It's like you've talked about, like, pay attention to people's energy, and you can sort which type they are. Like, just because there's only so many versions of so many things. Jonathan Campbell has a really good comment. I get annoyed, and I think he makes a great point here with intelligent INFPs, well educated. I know these INFPs, by the way, even have PhDs, but are clearly acting like they're afraid of rocking the SJ boat, and they repeat debunked ideas, ad infinitum. Yes, this is the way that SI shows up. Because they have this like all or nothing 10-year-old with their SI, and their FI wants peace. So they have I fight for the underdog with FI. Okay, you FI folks out there, INFPs, like, the underdog is not always right. Okay, sometimes the underdog, that person is an underdog because, like, they've made a lot of dumb mistakes in their life, and they actually even hurt other people. And I don't know if it's your responsibility to take care of them. Like, I understand you want to give empathy to them, but, like, also take care of the people immediately around you. And this is a thing I wish, especially for INFPs, like, care for the people in your home before you care for the starving kids in, like, whatever country 6,000 miles away. Like, because it's easier. I was in this great writing class years ago, and the writing teacher happened to know a famous actress who I believed, and based on what he said, I believe he also believed INFP. And when asked about her, he said, yeah, she's one of those people that loves the world but cannot seem to get along with anyone in it. And I get that. Like, NFs can be, and that's not a statement about INFP, that's like NFs. And INFP is just going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to accept all of this stuff because I want peace, and I want peace, and I want peace. They're miserable, and they're stuck in this horrible routine because they're supporting all of these other people's stuff, and they have TI last, so they're supporting a bunch of bad ideas. And they think that they can do a little bit of NI or NE and, like, escape the bad ideas in their mind. And I'm like, you got to face the stuff. Like, you got to face these, like, toxic relationships. You got to face the fact, if you really want to grow as a person, to understand that just because something is the SJ boat doesn't mean that boat is good for you. And I understand it's going to pay the bills and whatever, but then, like, it's an integrity issue, and at least be aware you're making the choice. And I would say I've met INFPs in their 60s who support the establishment, and they are aware that they've made a deal with the devil. They're aware of it. And they're just like, I have people that, and they've done the reverse. They're like, I have people at home who are depending on my health insurance that I get through my job. And I actually, like, think that the institution, the company I'm working for, is, like, basically evil. But I can't actually believe that. Otherwise, I would leave, and then everything will fall apart. Because for INFP, like, to actually open your eyes to the SE facts, that means that the FI is going to have to change. And if it has to change, then, like, all of the SI stuff is going to fall apart. And it's really tough. Whereas, like, INTP is just like, yeah, I don't even look at the stuff the institution does, because otherwise the institution takes care of all of my basic needs. It's like Google. The Google serves them food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It sends them vans and buses to pick them up from home and takes them to work. I know from the former director of Google, 40% of their employees score as INTP. I mean, this was at the time, this was like in 2011, which is 15 years ago now, but I'm sure they still grossly overrepresented INTP.
Yep.
Like, they love it. It doesn't matter that Google went from "don't be evil" as their motto to, like, something else, which is clearly evil. And that, by the way, that is no longer their motto. Officially, it's not. But INTP is just like, but the institution takes care of all of my needs.
Yes, child.
All of my SJ needs, all of my SI needs, like little 10-year-olds, all taken care of. And so the company is evil, but at least it gives me room to explore my ideas and, like, develop stuff. And maybe 90% of that what gets developed is thrown away, but is, like, easy and convenient. And they got FI last, so they're like, oh yeah, if you really dig at them, they're like, ooh, this FI, yeah, this what they do is icky, but they tolerate it.
Yeah,
because they don't want to rock the boat, because that actually is going to throw them out of the boat.
Yeah, because the SI is so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing about SI child, man. It's like once they get used to something, they want to stay. They want to stay in it. Like they can be even in abusive relationships and stuff, but because they like so used to it, they're gonna stay in it. So that's
Oh
another
God,
thing.
yes. Yeah, and the INTP can shut out the unpleasantness of the
Hmm.
bad relationship. INFPs will live for years and even tell themselves stories about how this person is actually wonderful. Because you can find the good in anybody. Like
If you
it's
any it around, if you any
yeah,
it around enough.
yeah. If you use any enough, you're gonna find like, and you can tell yourself stories about how it's great. And they tolerate like physical abuse, emotional abuse, like all of these things. And I'm like, you deserve way better than this. I know some INFPs who really could like treat themselves so much better. And yet, I mean, I respect that they're consciously making choices, but when they're not consciously making choices, that's a different story.
Yeah, I think also like a lot of them tend to be Enneagram 9, which is like
Yeah.
harmonizers, so that they don't want to rock the boat too much. INTP, INFP nines very common. They want to rock the boats. They want to get, they want to get treated like little whatever they get and be left alone. That's pretty
Mm.
much it. But that's
Yeah.
a child for you.
Yeah.
I
And
think. Yeah, go for it, Dario.
yeah, I was just going to say for INFP with that NF story, whatever stories they have, that SI gives them the resilience and the endurance to hold on to that story a long, long time. And sometimes that can be beautiful because they really do rescue the person by the end of the story. Because that really is what it's all about. Like at some point, they decided to get into this relationship with this person because they're like something really, they believe in their heart something really beautiful can come out of this. And then when things get tough, they're like, this is a rough patch. This is that. Like, I get it. I think I have FI also. I can see it. But I want to just say, like, for INFP and INTP, like, I get why you stick with stuff, but like, remember to give yourself compassion and do like SE doesn't have to be this big scary thing. Like, it can like take you to some like amazing new places in life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Give
Yeah.
up your old habits. I think we got one left, Dario. Any, which
Oh
is a
my
weird
God,
one.
this is like a marathon. And we've saved the most common types in society, ESTJ and ESFJ for last. And so let's see how it goes. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so it doesn't get confused.
Any, like I always say, like when you get into the abstract functions, it gets a little more messy.
Oh yeah, and the funny thing is that they it's a little bit because their type is not necessarily interested in understanding how they're using any like or type at all. That like trying to get an ESTJ interested in type, not an easy feat. They're asking, but like, what's the bottom line? But how can I use this? ESFJ will either complain that you're putting people in boxes, or they're a little bit smarter, ESFJ, and they're like, oh yeah, I can see how type like is cognitive diversity and human diversity, and like helps people grow, and I appreciate that. But yeah, let me find the little graphic for where is it? Okay,
Any.
page
Yeah,
one.
what I've noticed with them is like they can be quirky and
Oh yeah.
it comes out like dorky, you know, like it just like it's just so odd with the NE. As opposed to like you'll get like ENTPs who are comedians and they're very good at like telling jokes. You'll get like the corny ESTJ, and they'll like tell you like this corny stuff, and you're like, oh my god, get out of here with this any child brother. I think
Yeah, I call it garden gnomes. So the ESTJ who puts garden gnomes out in front of their house, like that's the sort of corny version of any, and that's yeah, that absolutely. Okay. Um almost there, folks.
I think the big, like if you're talking about NI trickster, is they usually will live somebody else's vision and then realize later on in life that they never lived their own vision or they never had their own purpose. So it's kind of like the trickster kind of bites people. Some tricksters bite people later in life and some tricksters bite people like reoccurring. But like the NI trickster usually like bites them because they never really followed their own destiny. They followed somebody else's destiny, like what some guidance counselor told them, what some authority told them, what their family has always done. They didn't really follow their own stuff. Like maybe they're meant to be a plastic surgeon, but like their family was nothing but dentists. So then they just followed that true path. But then later on in life, they're gonna have this resentment around not chasing that plastic surgeon dream.
Yeah, it reminds me. So I have an older sister, stepsister, ESFJ, and she was told a lot, and by the guidance counselor in high school, and they're just like, yeah, you're not really college material. This was in the '80s anyway, and so she just believed that. She's just like, yeah, I'm not college material. And then her first husband, he was like, no, he was an INFP, is like, I believe in you. Like, you can do it. And she went and like, she actually got an associate's degree and did pretty well in school because she really just needed a different vision for herself and like somebody to believe in her. And she just rode along with whatever she was told by people. And I think some of that, of course, is the extroverted feeling, is like telling them, but then it's also the lack of, you ask them what their vision is, ESTJ or ESFJ, they're like, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
Right. You would just be like, oh, I want to like work for the big firm and make money and have a nice house and get married and play golf. And because they didn't pass through that doorway of like dreaming in something bigger. And then when the NI stuff comes along, is like either really scary and terrifying, or they're just like, oh, that's crazy stuff. That's like craziness.
You'll never be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I do love that my ESTJ grandmother, though, like she thought, yeah, I mean, she's very Catholic, and Padre Pio was a living saint at the time. She like actually made the journey to meet him. Boy, did she get a surprise NI experience. And that like completely like rewrote everything. Like and so it was, sometimes it can really happen. I want to mention here, so there's an example of ESTJ, Sue Blair, and I know Sue. Sue is fantastic, like super classy, and she has a twin sister who's INFP. Her twin sister INFP has no interest in type whatsoever, but Sue Blair, the ESTJ, does, and she uses it among some other things to teach high school teachers and high school students about type. And she's like, no, it's a very practical tool actually to help kids see their potential and to grow up to be better adults and to be, like have more satisfying lives. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great way to pitch it to an SJ. Like those are all decent things. But Sue Blair is not the norm. She's just like super crafty and not the. And I've met some others. I met an ESTJ, and he spent half of his life growing up in Africa and half of it in the United States. So he grew up with a very multicultural experience, which gave him perspectives, which is a really nice thing. Otherwise, yeah, their extroverted intuiting is their only doorway to intuition, and and it's dangerous to get an INTJ and an ESTJ in the same room on the same topic many times, because, especially two males, because both of them think on that topic they're the smartest person in the room.
Which one? What'd you say, Dario? You said
INTJ, us, yeah, and also ESTJ, because
ESTJs are really smart.
they got TE and NE. So together they're like, oh yeah, I see all the bullshit that's happening with other people. Like many ESTJs are quite cynical and sarcastic and everything, and they think they're super on the ball. And they really can think. I have done a coaching thing with 12 team members, 8 of whom were scored and were ESTJ. And guess where all the conflict came between those ESTJs? Because each of them thought they were the smartest person in the room.
It's because they're usually threes. So the Enneagram 3, so they're high achievers, and so they learn all this stuff because, like I said earlier, people who take school serious versus people who don't take school serious, there's a huge drop off. That like sometimes once it's getting too far, you can't catch up. But the ESTJ is always taking school serious, and they also got the SI to pull the shit from. So they end up actually being very well thought individuals
Yeah.
that usually know what the fuck they're talking about. And you better know your shit if you're dealing with them. There's a certain few types where I'm like, you gotta know your shit when you're talking to them. It's like INTP, ESTJ, ENTP, and INTJ. Like those four, you better know your shit because they're tracking you well.
Yeah.
INTJ probably as well.
And I do want to say that for ESTJ, and in a different way for ESFJ, whatever their actually like SI domain is, like lawyer, doctor, whatever it is, for all of the other failings that they might have about the way they conduct their business or whatever, they know their profession very well. That doesn't mean they always do the ethical thing or whatever it is, but they do know it very well. It's an interesting situation. Now, I want to say with neurotic use in NE, it looks a little bit different between ESTJ and ESFJ, and I don't necessarily say that here, but I'm going to say it in the text, but I'm going to say it in person. So ESTJ is the master of nasty humor. Like they can fling out stuff from whatever, like outer field, and unless you're an ENFP, you're going to be like, where did that come from, and like, how do I deflect that into something else, like to top them, because they're very fast with the TE, and then the NE comes up with some like nasty zinger. ESFJ is a little bit different because they can be nasty, and the nasty form usually comes in gossip and like within their own social circle. So you get like that ESFJ who's going to be spreading gossip, like they're going to say nasty things. But ESFJ is also the master of what I would say not just drama, but surprise drama. Okay, the NE that's like, you're like, where did this drama come from? Like this super emotional reaction to something, which is also a total surprise and like even sort of creative. I got to give them that. Like it's weird, it's creative. Like my stepsister's ESFJ can be like super witchy and like the weirdest of moments. And I don't mean in a like John BB6 function witchy. I just mean like this NE, like, yeah, I'm just going to put on this like mask at the moment and be like super dramatic for fun. And then she'll totally laugh about it afterwards. And like all the children in the room are crying. Like literally all the children in the room are crying. And she's just like, oh, that was so good to get out that stress. And I'm just like, wait a minute, you know exactly what you're doing and you just laugh about it. Like, what is that? But that's like bringing in this NE to do like some role play. And it's just like a really, we have these stereotypes about these types, ESTJ and ESFJ, and we forget that they use NE quite a bit.
They can trip you up.
Oh
Like,
yeah, absolutely. They can trip you up. And they're the ones who actually, for some reason, are running the world.
you see a
I
lot of
want to remind everybody listening, these are the two types running the world. Like, I don't know how they got there, but I think it's their dominant function, their hero plus NE together.
that's the affiliative. It's the
Yeah,
affiliative.
and they just band together.
And they
Um,
gatekeep.
yeah,
They
it's,
gatekeep. Like as in like an INTJ, they gonna have skeletons in their closet by the time they try to run for any office. The ESTJ is affiliative, so they never do anything, and they're Mr. Perfect. So then they end up running for office. They end up winning. Like I mean, Barack Obama's ESTJ, Joe Biden's ESTJ. You know, like most of your presidents and stuff are gonna be ESTJ. Like they Mr. Perfect, they've done everything. You know, they know how to talk to the right way. They know how to say the right stuff. You know, they're Mr. Popular, done nothing wrong ever. Like you can't really beat the ESTJ when it comes to politics. You know, and they know the logistical intelligence that's needed for government. That's one of the big things that people don't realize is that like there's a lot of logistical intelligence behind it. Or they'll go the law route, and law is based off precedent, right? What was ruled before. So you'll see a lot of them go from that perspective as well. I think with ESFJs, I think if you're noticing that a ESTJ or ENFJ is not being responsible, they're probably using a lot of NE.
yes.
Because that is where the chaos is going to come from. The chaos is going to enter from that perspective. I do think I've had a good ESTJ on. He was a principal Ray. And he's talked about like every 5 years he likes to move to a different school system. And the reason why he's doing that is to entertain his any child, right? He's got to move on to somewhere else, so he can like, use the systems that he used at somewhere else and implement them at that school system. But he's got to move every 5 years because any child gets, got to do something. And if you don't entertain the child, it might come out in a different way. But
Yeah,
I've noticed that.
a principal or a politician, I think that those are really great examples of these two types. They love to go into it as EJ types. They love to manage other people. And then the NE, it's not just this passive NE of noticing patterns in people's behavior. It's not idealistic in nature like an NFP. Like it comes out as like literally meddling in other people's affairs. And it'd be like, and because they're affiliative types as well, it's like, yeah, it's my job to like meddle in your life. And so that like ESTJ who lives in like the corner down the street, or ESFJ, I guarantee they don't see it as causing problems in their neighborhood. They see it as actually improving their neighborhood. But from everybody else's point of view, they're like, why are you meddling in my affairs?
Yeah.
And they're very much into meddling other people's affairs. And they probably will not bring in NE at the beginning, but when they're like pushed a little bit, like, oh, I have to come up with a creative solution of how to do something, they're going to meddle in like the NE is going to come in there to think of like some imaginative, inventive way to get like to put the speed bumps on your road, and like let's move this through the bureaucracy and make it happen. And it's not a setup that I appreciate as an INTJ. I'm like, it is not your role to meddle in my life. But they love it. It gives them a lot of warm fuzzy feeling that they did something good.
Or they store all this information on you. Like I have two ESFJs at work. They store all this they meddle and gossip, and they store all of this information on you. So it's fucking obnoxious. Like my ESFJ coworker was like randomly like pulling out some shit I said. I just randomly said 4 years ago, and I was like, what the fuck? Like I can't deal with a person like that because like my NE starts thinking about like what if this motherfucker like compounding all this other shit about you, like what if she's doing that? It's like no. I don't like that shit. Like, so you gotta be very careful with what you say around the ESFJ because they're just like they're just sucking out intel. It's like,
Yeah,
oh.
and I want to emphasize that the details that they're collecting and the patterns that they see are all concrete, like behavioral patterns. So it's going to be like what food you ate, or like the words that you uttered, or like what your race is, or something like ethnicity, like all of these concrete things. And when it comes to even abstract behaviors, they're focusing on the behaviors, like the actual, like when you came in the morning, and like you regularly come in 10 minutes late, and they notice that.
That's SE critic.
Right. Do they actually see you as a unique person? No. Like that's like a really long, difficult bridge for them to go through, because that requires either FI or NI, or like something that's not near the top of their stack to actually see the people in front of them. So they think that they know you really well. And they actually don't know you at all, in the way that, like, especially a lot of intuiting types or FI types are going to say, but like, you don't see the actual me. And that's why you have this setup commonly in like films and TV and stuff. You have like this ESJ parent who's like, you need to do this and you need to do that. And the kid is standing there like, you don't even see me at all as a person. And that's, that's like, then that's like their shadow functions that they got to wrestle with.
Yeah, the SE critic can be something else, man. It can be something else, Don't be late to a ESFJ, or like, be not fitting the tradition, because the SE critics can come out and it is nothing to play with.
Yeah.
Like it is truly nothing to play with. But I do see like sometimes you can kind of even see, like I got an ESFJ coworker. I got two of them. One of our assistants, and she loves to gamble. Like her little anything is gambling. Like she does these little scratch offs, and the crazy thing is she wins money. So I can't really say nothing, but like That's what she does. She does these little fucking scratch offs, and I'm like, that is, I'm like, like all of this stuff you're doing long term, you're probably breaking even, if that.
Yeah, but it's their little hobby that they're
Yeah.
entertaining. Yeah, yeah, it's their little hobby, and that's like a very safe thing. It's the same as like going to church. They're, if everybody else is going to church in their social group, they're going to go to church and they're going to role play all of the, and they remember what all of the prayers are and like who the pastor's niece is and like her birthday and like all that kind of stuff. But do they actually allow themselves to experience like the FI or NI, like mystical or like very personal spiritual experience? Like that is a whole lifelong journey for them. And that is like even if they get that far, like that is a really big challenge. And yet that NE is there, and one of the things it does is it makes them feel smart when they have it. They're like, oh, I see what you're doing. Like, I noticed your pattern. Oh, I told you, like, I did this really funny joke on you. Oh, look how I pushed you out of our social circle by telling this, like, key piece of juicy gossip.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's not smart. That's just like,
Sound like ESFJ.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's I mean, ESTJ will do things to dick you over, and they're like, yeah, I was expecting you were taking care of yourself. Like, if you get dicked over, then that was your fault because you didn't fight hard enough for yourself. Like, generally speaking, ESTJ is not going to waste their time on gossip.
Yeah.
They're just going to be like, you should have been like, why I stepped up? Why didn't you step up? Like, you lost the job to me. That's your problem. I do want to point out something. I had a student do a research project using temperament. Most of my students did use temperament rather than all 16 types on who was doing hanky-panky in the library basement at UCLI. And it was not the SPs, because the SPs do the hanky-panky out in the open. Like the SP doesn't have shame around like, oh yeah, my parents told me to like, not go to parties, and so I just go to parties anyway. And if they find out, I'll just give them like an innocent smile and say sorry, like whatever needs to happen. NFs and NTs, first of all, they're like, it doesn't occur to them like either to flaunt it or to hide it. They're like going to do something because it's authentic, or I believe in myself, or this felt like it was the right thing. I'm going to try and explain reasons to my parents or friends. Like, I'm going to be sort of discreet, but I'm also not going to super hide it. You know which was the temperament most likely to do stuff in the library basement? Were the SJs.
Really?
Why? Yes, really. Why? Because they don't want anybody to know. Because SJs are not actually better people than anybody else. They just hide it better. Like, do you think that ESTJ is not having any affairs? Like, ESTJs have affairs. They do. But they're just much, like, they put a lot more effort into hiding it than any other type.
Because they care about the collective community's opinion of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And even if, I have to say, I even knew ESTJ who was a recovering meth addict and a nurse. Did an amazing job of hiding it for many years. Like, many, many years. But an addiction is an addiction, and it's a physical thing, not just a psychological thing. And was deeply ashamed if he, like, exposed anybody else to it. He was absolutely terrified of getting caught. Because his NE would generate all of these scenarios where he might get caught and how he might get caught. And he was a nurse. So he's like, he knew all of the ways to hide it, but he also had access. And he did a great job of hiding it and managing it, compared to, say, like an ISFP who would like go off the rails almost immediately and would not be hiding it at all.
You said, so why do SJs judge harsh if they do it themselves? Bro, that's how critics are, bro. Critics are harsh on everybody else, and they try to hide it themselves. Like, like it's just how it is, bro. Like, INTJ tell you fucking stupid, but you better not tell them they stupid,
No, the worst thing telling INTJ, even like stupid isn't enough, because the INTJ knows himself well enough to know, like, no, I'm not really stupid. The most horrible thing to tell an INTJ is that they're pointless. Like, they're just like, why are you even thinking about that? Like, why are you wasting your time thinking about that? Like, what is the point of what you're saying? Like, it's just like it means nothing. And we're
I
like, because
wonder.
NI just does stuff because like the unconscious tells us to do stuff. Like, and the point, what's the point of it in the end? Like, I can't really tell you. I don't know. What's the point of life? Why do we even exist?
Well, I mean,
Like,
I think it bothers. I think it bothers INTJs because you're telling them they have no direction in their life, and NI is all about direction. So you're telling
yeah,
them they have no direction. They're gonna be like, "Well, I have no direction," and then they're gonna be kind of paranoid because NE's gonna be like, "Huh, you might not have no direction." They're like, "What the?" Kind of like you playing with,
yeah.
kind of like you gaslighting them. Like
Oh
you
yeah,
can
yeah, yeah,
gaslight them.
yeah. And I really feel that when at the ESJs, when they harshly shame other people for doing stuff, what they're saying is not that what you're doing was bad, but you should not have done it in a way that I found out. You should be discreet more than anything. I mean, and I want to go beyond American culture to other cultures historically. It's a very SJ thing. It's not necessarily that it's bad. Like, all humans are human. Like, SJs are not insane. Like, they understand that. But they're like, you should never get caught. Or either that, or they're just like covering their ass by projecting it onto other people, like trying to do an NE distraction, because any can do that. Any will create distractions. So let's create a distraction by saying other people, like, it's the classic, like, the dude who is like extremely homophobic and he's like an ESTJ. What's the chance that like he has some feelings, like, really pretty high? Like, it is just like you can't help it. Like, the moment an SJ is like that, I'm like, yeah, I think we know what's going on here.
Create a
And
distraction.
because their NE is like in trying to do a distraction, I'm like, but that's their child function. It's like, do you really think that you're fooling like the ENTP in the room? I've never seen an ESTJ fool an ENTP. ENTP is just like, what are you doing? Like, this is so obvious. Like, you can see this for like 500 miles away. From like another planet, I can see this. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, the ENTP
Or the
only they only about to
ESFJ,
have it.
yeah, trying to fool an ENFP. ESFJ can never fool an ENFP. The ENFP is like, what are you doing?
Just
Like, this is
dial
just
any.
nuts. Like, you're not fooling anybody. Um, there's a really good question here, and I'm going to have like a little story that's a terrible story to answer it. What type do you think is the most authentic, or at least tries to be? Now, of course, I think the standard answer is going to be, oh, INFPs really
Yeah.
value authenticity. Even of all the
Mhm.
NFs, they really value authenticity. And
Mhm.
yet I have known an INFP, and I knew him quite well because he was a family member, um, who turned out to be a not just gang member, but drug dealing child molester.
Whoa.
And he lived a double life like you can't imagine.
You can't throw INFPs in there like that because there is a very well known YouTuber who says that INFPs are child molesters. See, it's Joseph. So you
Okay, so
gotta be careful.
he like, I've talked to him in person. I'm not going to say anything bad about him. Like, he has and I really appreciate he spreads the word on Linda Barron's work and stuff like that. But when it comes to those kinds of statements,
Those are too wild. You just dropped
too
that. I was just like,
wild, and I'm going to step
whew,
away from that. And
whew.
also, he's like, oh no, like INTJs are like the worst at sex. I'm like, dude, I have a lot of repeat customers, so to speak. Yeah, and that just ain't true. Like, no, those just like, you cannot draw like those behavioral things.
It's the NE. It's the NE. A lot of times his NE, like a lot of times he believes his NE is TI, and it's just not it. Like you like you just gotta stop.
No, no,
You gotta
and
stop.
sometimes I think it actually, because ENTP is also the master at trolling.
No, I don't think he trolling. I think he really believes it. I think he really believes it. I don't think he's trolling. I think he really believes it, man.
Yeah.
But like I said, the NE can convince them that is TI a lot.
Oh, that's an interesting, because the TI is the sort of the servant of NE. So the TI is tasked to make sense of all of the
Well,
NE stuff.
yes,
no
Yes.
matter how wild it is.
No matter how wild it is, they still got to come up with some logical. How it can be logical when it's just straight fucking dog shit. But it is what it is. That's why I had to stop you because that he has made a claim that INFPs are child molesters. So, and then you just said that, so I just had to.
Now, with all due respect to generating ideas, I want to say that there is this massive Milo database, which is the Myers-Briggs Foundation database on published studies. There are quite a number of MBTI and prisoner studies of who are the types most common as prisoners, what crimes are they associated with, all of that. INFP is not even in the top 10 for types that end up as prisoners. Of course, like the way people score on the MBTI is not always their type. But let's just say STPs are highly represented in the prison system. Obviously,
STP?
most STPs are not criminals, but among those people in society who are criminals, at least the STPs are the ones getting caught. Um, and you can see it. David Kiersey had a very, very nice model of pathology and type, talking about how each of the four, and I remember the four SPs, and how they go wrong in different ways. Of course, it tends to be sometimes criminal activity. Like ISFP among the SPs is most likely to do self-harm as its like outlet for its emotional and psychological issues. ESTP among the SPs is the most likely to harm others. And this is really great unpublished stuff from David Kiersey, but it's in all Linda Barron's notes. Like, is really, really interesting things. But yeah, INFP does not score, and there are actual published studies on like criminal types, and that's like been broken down.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting. Like poor SFPs, they get in prison all the time for dealing drugs. Like they weren't even really harming anybody. Like they didn't mean to kill anybody. They just wanted to, like everyone to have a good time, and make a little bit of money in the process.
Yeah.
And they end up in prison.
I would actually say that I think the most likely people to be in jail are going to be ESFP, ISFP, and then you got your STPs, and then ENTP. Like ENTPs always like conning people and shit, and like they think they're smarter than everybody else, and they don't want to do the work. They rather like pitch some random scheme. They think the traditional route is bad. And then they get bored, and then like they got to pay for bills, and then they start doing crazy shit that they shouldn't do, and they end up going to jail for it. They end up selling drugs, or they want to be drug lords. So
You
yeah.
you are not wrong. I know, and this is purely anecdotal. I know two ENTPs who've been in the prison system. I think the difference between ENTP and ENFP when they're doing a con, because ENFPs can be con artists too, is the ENTP, even when they're telling the truth, at times sounds like they're lying. Especially the young male ENTP who's like running some kind of like con or just telling people a story. ENFP, because of their people skills, has this magical way of weaseling out of trouble, and they convince the STJ, who's usually at the other end of the prison system, that they're like, no, I'm just a misunderstood lost puppy. And the ESTJ or ISTJ sees the sweet ENFP, and they're just like, oh yeah, I'm just like misjudging you, and you just have like this cute magical pixie aura, and there must be something good about you. ENTP cannot put on that cute magical pixie aura, and they have to rely upon an SFJ to like give them a pass, and there are just as not as many SFJs in law enforcement, and that also is in the Myers-Briggs data.
They can
Are
usually
there
talk
healthy
themselves out of it.
ENTPs? Yes, of course there are. Yeah, absolutely.
They
Are they
talk
the
really
scary?
well. Like ENTPs talk very well, and they know what to say, how to say it, and they know how to represent themselves, and they know to poke holes in the other people's arguments. So like a lot of times you will see ENTPs represent themselves in court. So that's something you will see because they can point holes in people's arguments very easily or flip things around with extroverted intuition. But again, they're pragmatic, so it seems to hit them a lot. Like they're more likely to be in jail because they're pragmatic and they don't want to do the traditional route. But I do think that for me, the con man, ENFP ain't got a chance because they're too damn dumb. right? Unless they like they put something behind like a group of people and try to merge it into the people, like, oh, we're doing this as a group and all this other stuff, and they try to push it along that way, because I can easily see where things aren't logically going. While like an ENTP will make things seem logical on first glance, so you got to really do some homework to tell them what they're telling you is wrong. ENFP, you can slice through it immediately, but an ENTP, you gotta like do a little bit more work to figure out what they're saying is actually wrong. So if they got you in the moment, they can get you. But ENFP, nah.
No, that really gets it. We missed the whole topic with the ENFP and ENTP talking about gurus, but that's yeah, two types drawn to being gurus.
Guru, yes, gurus online. Yes, you're right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They
And
what
that's
they, what they
because it
call them?
doesn't take a lot to be a guru. And yeah, so there are some questions that we are describing, and I just want to clarify for people who came in late. We're talking about the neurotic boundary or neurotic zone. So we're just talking smack about all of the types in this and like where they go wrong and where they can be unhealthy. Obviously, there are healthy versions of all of the types that maybe are aware of, but like,
That's not
you
fun.
know, manage their neurotic use. And I mean neurotic in the Jungian sense of the word, not neurotic in this like the modern sense is a little bit different. And and people can grow out of these things. Not all of them, but they can definitely grow out of a lot of it. So, are there healthy ENTPs? Absolutely. I think it's a challenge because ENTP finds it difficult to ever find a place in society. And that's whereas ESTJ and ESFJ all too comfortably from the beginning, like society is built for them by sheer numbers, as somebody pointed out earlier. Like they're like, what is it? ESTJ is 18% of the population, something like that. Um,
What's that?
that's a lot of ESTJs. That's like scary. You go out in America, there's like 60 million ESTJs. Like just think about that for a moment.
I don't know if I trust that data, Dario. I don't know if I trust that
We
data,
don't know
but
if we want to believe that. No, we don't.
I don't believe
I
that
know I'm
data,
not 60 million,
boy.
I'm not friends with those 60 million, but the number of people who can point to the ESTJ or several of them in their family, like there's a lot of them. I think all of us know an ESTJ. And they can be real characters sometimes, but I have met older ones who like mellow out because that's the direction they move to is they mellow out. If
What?
they do mellow, then they get softer.
Yeah, so like
Um,
I think with a lot of people, as people age, their child function grows and grows and grows and grows. Like my mother is an I like I talked about my mom. My mom's an INTJ. When we were younger, she called us bitches, hoes, all type of shit. Like she called whenever she get mad, she called us whatever she was on her mind, right? And now that she's older, she's like 70. She don't want to cuss. She like, oh, don't you cuss, all this other, because the FI child has grown, right? It's now
yeah.
70 years old instead of like when we were kids, like it was a younger FI child. Now she's like incorporated. So it's like the same thing with ESTJs. Like when they're 70 years old, they're a lot more open to a lot of more things because NE is grown. And it
Mm.
knows that it's more things out there than just the one way that they're seeing. Or maybe, you got to be more open minded to actually get change, so
I
that's what
mean,
you guys
an
can learn.
amazing thing is to take an ESTJ or really any SJ and assign them to an office overseas in a foreign culture. And don't let them go to like McDonald's for their food in Korea or whatever. Like really like take them through like a cultural training course, sit them down there for at least 2 years, and they will come back and have more perspective. And that, like the multicultural exposure, I think is really good for SJs, especially ESTJ and ESFJ. They're like, wow, things are not the way I grew up, and that's okay. Even my grandmother as an ESTJ was, as times changed, technology changed, she reached into her 70s. Like, she was open to different stuff, more so than she was when she was even 10 years before. She's like even going to change her fashion a little bit, which was sometimes really funny because she didn't actually know what the fashion of the time was. Things change. So I got it. they just need like more like multicultural, like out of context experiences, and be like really almost told to do that, and their hand held as they're doing it.
I mean, they do a lot better than the inferiors. Any inferiors practically never change.
No, it's difficult. But I gotta say, I knew my dad all of my life, and the last 3 years of my life really pleasantly surprised me.
Really? What was your dad?
ISTJ.
Oh, really?
But it took to the last 3 years, just FYI. So you might think that there's this SJ who's like completely hopeless in your life. Give them as like death starts to creep up and they become aware of that, like all human beings, and then they're just like, and some of them can be like they ain't gonna change until that 1 minute before they take their last breath. But whenever, and I would say this is true of all the EJ types, but especially ESTJ and ENTJ, you want to see them soften up. Get them while they're sick in bed, when they got COVID or like whatever it is, they're like really sick. Then all of a sudden they're going to get all mushy and say their mistakes and how they were mean to people and like have second thoughts about doing things. Now maybe they may change their mind when they get better. So have it on paper or like record it. Just so you can say you said. But every type is redeemable.
Every type does. I think
Yeah.
everyone's on a journey to develop themselves. I think what type does allow is us to know exactly what we need to do to grow, as opposed to like not knowing and just going out here and just doing random shit and then like figuring out like later on like none of that shit really worked. As in like type gives you like a blueprint, like okay, like I know what my strengths are, I know what I want to do, and I know what I need to do to enhance myself. So I think that's the wonderful gift of learning MBTI is just noticing, because all of us, our goal should be the same, is to master ourselves. So, but everyone's got a different route to doing that, especially based off your type, because you got some gimme functions like your parent, technically, and your hero should be good.
Mhm.
People's, I don't know, man. I've been
No,
in
it's
class so
not
long.
always easy. Like, imagine you are a female INTP who grows up in a very SFJ environment. You have cultural pressure, family pressure to not even touch your dominant function, your hero, that you're supposed to be acting out of your inferior function. I always thought as an INTJ when I first learned about type, I'm like, thank God I have extroverted thinking. Because that's a dude function. Like, culturally, like, that's a dude function. Like, that's okay.
Yes, you do.
Um, but yeah, everybody has their journey, and those we would hope those would be gimmies, uh, but not all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
kind of crazy.
yeah,
I don't know what your take is, Dario, but I used to be more optimistic with people. But now that I've been in tight for so long, and I just think like, if you ain't gonna do it, you ain't gonna do it. Just flat out, if you ain't gonna do it, you just ain't gonna do it. I used to think
yeah.
like, you could do a couple things, and like, and you could change it. But the reality is like 80% of people that are gonna learn their type, they're gonna stay the same person they was today. And then there's a 20% of them that will actually grow and change and become better. But the other 80, just Pareto's principle, call it whatever you want to call it. But that's just what I've seen. It's just like they don't have no hope. It's no hope. It's over for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's. I try not to think about that too much. To be honest, I think what I find is that when a person voluntarily expresses an interest in genuine interest in, say, spiritual or psychological growth, to just make available, like have a conversation with them, not pushing anything on them, make available some stuff to them, and just be like, it's up to you.
Damn,
And
Dario. Come
like
on,
I
man.
met an ESFP recently, just a friend of a friend, completely random. And he was talking about, he's like, he said, I started to think about recently, he's like mid 30s, like, does free will really exist?
I don't think it does.
And I'm just like, I don't know if I mean, I have sort of like an abstract answer to give him, But I'm like, "Have you tried psychedelics?" And he's like, because he brought that up a little bit too. And I'm like, "Well, let's talk about that." And maybe this question, it's not that it needs to be answered, but it's like a springboard to actually answer some other things in your life. And then it can be something really lovely. Um,
Yeah, I think about
I don't know what that's going to be yet, but it's up to him.
I think about free will is like it's like a mixture. It's not just one. It's a term for it. I forget the term, but it's a mixture. It's not like you don't have free will, but you don't have complete like free will. You know.
Well, that's a starting assumption, which is often wrong. So I saw like ISTP was arguing for and against free will, and I'm like, first of all, your basic assumption is wrong because it's a spectrum, not a binary. I'm like,
I think there's
imagine
a
that you
combination
are
of both.
somebody highly influenced by your friends and you're like drunk. You have less free will than when you're sober and maybe somebody not as influenced by your friends. And I said, that's a very different way to think about your question. He didn't like my reframe and just went back to like, no, but like in physics, like, do you have free will? I'm like, I don't know. Nobody can answer that question. I'm trying to give you the useful TE answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a mixture, but hey, it is what it is. People make the best of their life. I hope they do. I don't know what to tell them.
Yeah.
But you guys got any questions? If not, me and Dario are gonna head out of here, man.
Yeah.
Um, I saw types and gender are two sides of the same coin. Know your gender. I mean, I think anybody with a brain cell knows that gender is very important to type. Like, I mean, it's not hard to notice that guys are gonna rely more on thinking, women are gonna rely more on their feeling functions. So like, you just gotta adjust and learn. Like, if you're dealing with let's say ENTJ woman, you're gonna know that she's not her T isn't gonna be like a ENTJ's man. It's gonna be a little bit more FI oriented. They're gonna be better oriented with FI than the ENTJ male, right? Because why? Because society allows a man to get away with FI. Why for a woman it doesn't allow you to be that way. That's just how it is. So but I think over time the ENTJ woman will learn like, man, you know what? I just gotta be me. Right? They're gonna be fighting their entire life to kind of like balance being a woman and then being kind of mannish. And then at a certain point in their life, they're gonna say, "Fuck this shit! I just gotta be me," which is like the more dominant version of themselves that like most people would attribute to being a man. So that's something they're gonna have to come to grips with. But I do think gender is pretty obvious, guys. I mean, pretty fucking obvious. I think a lot of times we've talked about it before. INFP males get like stereotyped like INFP women, and like it's totally different, right? It's totally different. INFP males can be pretty intelligent individuals, and they're not always in their feelings what you would think like how the stereotype has it. So like you'll see a lot of people who don't want to be INFPs, like especially the males that do not want to be INFPs. They feel like they're getting like banished to the nether realm or something. I don't know, man. Like if you get typed INFP, they don't want to be a Dario.
And yet the NFPs are the movers and shakers of culture behind the scenes. Like they're the ones that move the culture. They can convince the STJs to do stuff that nobody else can convince the STJs. So it's and they try and do it with humor. So I think that's and we are who we are, type wise. People, I mean, and this gets into a whole nother topic we can discuss another time. Like
Yeah.
when we change our type, stuff like that. I don't think we change our type. We just
No.
change the expression of our type. And it can sometimes, change our expression.
I think what it is people don't realize that there's the core type, which is your type code, and then there's a circle outside of that, which is the developed type, which is who you are right now, and there's the contextual self. And like there's things from the environment that pushes in and you change with that, and your type code actually pushes in and changes you as well. And then you become a combination of all of them together, and that's the developed self. So it's
What?
not like oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. I was just gonna mention for this person here a random. Is the amount of specific types due to strategy, like evolutionary strategies? So Carl Jung talked about this. Where do the functions come from? And he said a big component of the functions is evolutionary. that like as human beings and as animals, and then we live in societies and we're faced with these problems, challenges like finding food, getting married, like a mate, like all these things, that these are 8 different ways that we solve the body of these challenges, including our evolutionary ones. He said more functions could evolve over time, or they could evolve into something different. And so I believe, why are there more SJs than the other types? Well, probably because
Utilize.
SJs are super well suited to agricultural society in a
Stabilize.
way that the other types are not. SPs super well suited to be hunter gatherers. Like that's NTs pretty, well fit to be in information societies, like with technology evolving all the time and all of that. Just broadly speaking, NFs like that, your culture has not arrived yet. Um, NF is like the meta temperament in that sense. But yes, yeah, Jung talked about there could be more functions, and in fact, he talks about other functions in his work. The unary function, the transcendent function. Obviously, he didn't mean them in the same way as the mental functions, but he meant there could be more mental functions. Yes, he said that. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting.
Funny
That's
thing.
interesting.
Okay, I'm gonna go make myself a hamburger. 'Cause
All right, Dario, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on, Dario. It was a fun one, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Did I do FI Child? Yes, I did.
Yeah, we did. It's the first video, guys. You got to go to the first video to watch the FE child, FI child, and TI child, guys.
Yeah, yeah. We did the other ones in the first video.
Yeah.
So until next time, thank you for those of you who are here, and of course,
We'll see you guys on the next one.
Mercer for having me, and Thomas who had to leave. All very good stuff. I love being able, I can't always be like a type conference with all the old fuddy-duddies. Like I can't be politically incorrect. So this was great.
Yeah, yeah, we don't care because my channel is more about being pragmatic. We don't give a fuck. It is what it is, and I think it's good for type. I think you can't be like that PG guy. Like, come on, man. No one wants to look at that. No one wants to sign up for that. They want to be entertained. They want to see something different. So that's what I do enjoy having you on our channel, because we don't see the button up Dario Nardi, the ESTJ version of you. The ESTJ version of you. We get the Dario over here that curses. Me and Tom's
Yeah,
been laughing
I
so hard.
know. I know. It's not always the best side of me, but
Yeah,
research studies show that cursing actually relieves stress in the nervous system.
I think so, because I curse a lot. But yeah, it's guys. Please check out the first video. That's where we talked about the TI child and the FI child and the FE child. This video, was fun. We got to talk about everything. And you guys can always reach out to Dario on I forget what platform, Radiance House.
That's right, radiancehouse.com, and you can send me an email at service@radiancehouse.com. Also, a lot of this stuff comes from my books, either Decode Your Personality or The Magic Diamond, and most of this was from Decode Your Personality,
Yeah.
and a lot of good stuff in there. And but this also is that chance to open it up. So go read the book and then come back and listen again, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So definitely check out that, because this is all in Decode Your Personality, and Decode Your Personality has the 4 subtypes, you guys. So if you're trying to take your knowledge to the next level and understand the 4 subtypes, all of this is in there as well. So we just gave you guys a more animated version of that with stories that can, jog your memory so you can remember it, which I think is very important. People remember the fucking stories.
Yeah.
I get people telling me all the time, Mercer, I remember you said this. I'm like, holy shit, I don't even remember that. But whatever. We're gonna let Dario get out of here. He's got to go cook a hamburger, guys. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out, guys.
Thank you, everyone.